How you feeling, James? Making sure you look good?
Yeah,
I think I'm probably going to keep my camera off for a good bit.
I had my shirt down 2 buttons. I figured I'd look less like white trash.
Well, you're still wearing a suit, just without a tie.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're going to be okay. We're live, by the way.
Oh, awesome.
Hello and welcome to Fermenting Opinions. I'm your host, David Papiden.
I'm your co-host, James. Trying not to.
You're doing a fine job, sir. And this is Fermenting Opinions, the podcast and Hangout. In search of a more palatable political ferment. This is October 24, 2018. And we are talking tonight about our midterm hopes and fears, I guess we'll say, as well as some other things that have been going on in the news, like the migrant caravan that's in Mexico, the journalist by the name Khashoggi, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, being murdered in a freak bone saw fist fight in the Saudi embassy or something like that when he went back overseas, and whatever else that comes across. I think the Dow's doing some interesting things. We might get into that. We'll see. Interesting meaning terrifying.
Yeah, terrifying would be.
Yeah, because I've been watching.
James, I think you got to get a little closer or something. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay.
I have his. You're up. You should be up. Let's bring your.
I was hearing you fine a second ago, but
All
just.
Right.
Is that better now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Oh God, please don't let me say that.
But you're doing okay, Haley. Can you hear him all right?
Yeah, he's his volume's lower than yours.
Weird. Because I'm right up on this microphone.
Yeah, he's pretty. Close. He's as close as anybody ought to be to their microphone. So
well,
that's why I had the game back up, and we were having problems on the podcast of picking up every little pop and creak and everything else like that.
Yeah.
But so I turned the gain down because I am not a digital wizard, which is why we have one.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I struggle with these tech issues. But this is a great way to test it out. So
sure. So
anyway, yeah, let's get back to it.
Yeah, midterms.
Man, I've seen, from what I understand, a lot more. Well, I'll start by saying this, and this may not be necessarily an accurate picture, but tons more social media activity related to Democratic candidates in Tennessee. James and I are in Tennessee. Brandon, are you in Tennessee?
Yes, I'm in East Tennessee, though.
In East Tennessee. Okay, so he's in a different part of the state, where we're in the middle part, southern middle, but a lot of activity with candidates that are local to us. This is particularly interesting for us because we've had several of these candidates on the podcast.
Yeah,
we've interviewed them. We've heard their positions on policy, why they're running, and what have you. And this is time to find out, what happens to these people. Is what they said to us, is that impressing other people? What are the people of Tennessee and our districts deciding?
Yeah, and it's definitely getting a little wild here. I mean, we've had signs stolen. There's now an accusation of vandalism for a tent outside of the polling spot for early voting, because Murray County all votes out of the election
for the early voting. Yeah,
for early voting, and everybody sets up along that road that leads in there. People are greeting candidates and talking.
Absolutely.
And apparently I think it was over the weekend, one of the candidates.
It was like Thursday or Friday of last week, something like that. But yeah, it was around that time. Sure.
Yeah, one of our local districts, 64th, which we are both in, and David and I both have interviewed H.A. Holmes several times. I guess his booth or his tent and everything was really damaged and messed up. And there have been a lot of accusations of vandalism.
And this is, I think, to be really clear, AJ Holmes, he's candidate for state rep, 64th district. We've had him on the podcast, I think, no less than 3 times at this point. I like him a lot personally. I voted for him. The thing that's important, he's not directly accused his opponent, Scott Sapicki, of anything, but he's saying, that his tent, his campaign tent, and his signs and stuff like that were vandalized, because what they're reporting, again, it's not, in fact, can't prove anything. There's no cameras. We don't know. But they're reporting that the damage that's been done to the tent is not consistent with wind damage. And that it looks like someone took, foot or fist to it kind of thing.
Yeah, and I pointed that out because I mean I've only seen a few pictures, and if you're on in our discussion group, you may have seen this post. The night that this happened was extremely windy, like unseasonably so, 20, 30 mile an hour gusts. Like it was pretty.
Well, was his tent the only one that was damaged?
It was, and AJ was saying that he had staked his tent down like everybody else did because they knew wind was coming.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you what the damage is consistent with from pictures on Facebook. I really don't know.
Right.
But I brought that up to say that I remarked pretty much all night long about the wind. I was actually, random nerd fact, I was up making broth, ramen broth actually.
You were making broth.
Yeah, a broth, a tonkatsu
Okay.
broth that basically takes 19 hours of simmering. And by the time I actually had everything thawed out and ready to go, it was like 5 p.m. when I started this broth. And I was like, man, this is a terrible idea. I'm going to be up all night. But while I was up, I mean, it was just windier than holy hell. And I kept saying, I had a few friends over and I was just like, man, this is crazy. The wind is nuts tonight. So I saw that his tent was destroyed. And I brought up the point that it could have been the wind. But according to his camp, I guess the damage looked more like, man-made human damage than it did.
And that's what he's saying. And, I obviously didn't see it or examine it or what have you. AJ's not known to make things up.
Sure.
And, is there the possibility that he's acting on suspicions, essentially? Because it's also a fact that a lot of his yard signs have been ripped up over the last several months. I go to the Democratic Party meetings. I don't go to all of them, but I've gone to several. And a lot of people come in, and it's not to dupe me so I can come on here and repeat it, but have said that they've had signs in their own yards that have been torn out.
Yes, and I've heard of that too. I mean, that's
a thing people do.
It is. I mean, I've seen that on both sides. Back in the 2016 election, people were really crazy about tearing out yard signs.
Yeah, and that's a thing that happens pretty much every cycle, right?
Yeah.
But like nuts. That would be consistent with the pattern of behavior to tearing up his signs. Maybe they vandalize his, because there's been a very active troll presence around AJ's campaign.
There has been
on his social media stuff.
I've seen
again, we don't know this, and I'm not accusing, especially not accusing Sapicki or anybody from his campaign specifically of doing anything, but he does seem to have a base of, or we'll say a faction of rabid supporters that I wouldn't necessarily put it past them to engage in vandalism. Again, don't know that for sure. This is me just looking at the evidence and saying, I think, yeah, maybe, but assigning a low level of confidence. And you think maybe not?
Yeah.
Or I don't know. Where are you at?
Look, from a philosophy perspective, I'm going to have to tell you, I go with Occam's razor on this one. The simplest solution is usually the solution to the answer. I don't know anything about it, but I can tell you specifically how crazy the wind was that night. And it's entirely possible that a tent that was staked down got destroyed by wind. But I don't know. Again, I don't want to point fingers or anything, but I think that really needs to be talked about specifically. Like, that was unseasonably windy. It was strange. I mean, the amount of wind was pretty intense.
All right, we get it.
Okay, yeah, so it was windy, right? And we think maybe it was vandalized, maybe it wasn't. We don't know. So, do we think our friend of the Ferment and frequent guest, do we think he has good chances, a snowball's chance in hell, somewhere in between?
Excuse me.
Gesundheit.
I'd say somewhere in between. I mean, the R on Scott's name carries a lot of weight, especially in Murray County. That's what, 70-80% Republican.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but okay.
It's kind of split up. The district's a little bit split up, but I'd say Sapicki's got the edge. Sure. I like the amount of campaigning AJ's done.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen a lot of campaigning out of Scott. I never got a rejection for him to be on our show, but his campaign
never
really
confirmed.
About, and that never really happens.
It's my fault. I make us look like we're the liberal show. It's really not true at all. But that's what it is.
I think the saying goes is, it's their campaign to lose. Why let the lawyer and the liberal tear into your and risk, anything? Because anybody who's watched our show will know that we don't go hard on people. Like,
no, not on any, even people that we don't agree with. I mean, certainly
we're super friendly, and we don't push tough questions. We're not trying to badger you, ask you things, or hit you with gotcha stuff.
Just to cut in, Brandon, can you hear James well?
I can hear him okay. It's not great. There definitely needs to be some tuning there.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe just check if everything's screwed in right or something. Because I could hear you fine before we went live.
Let me see here. Let's say something now.
Okay, mic check. Anybody hear me well?
It's the same.
It's still the same.
It may be because of what we did with the channels.
You
might want to just.
Well, I don't know how to. I don't know. I didn't actually see what he did.
I know what he did.
What did he do?
Here.
Was it these guys here?
Yes, it was. You'll see that most of them are switched to the left. One of them should be switched to the right. If you balance them out to the middle, it should go back to.
Try now.
No, you need to switch mine still. The other one's pointed the other direction, right?
I just moved this
Okay.
up to the middle. Can you hear him better?
Do a little test run.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, that's probably what it was.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. I could hear you a lot better.
Okay, good. Yep, that's what it was.
I'm gonna turn down the gain. Okay, so we almost solved the problem and created a new one in the process.
Yeah.
It sounds like we're working with technology. Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. I'd rather we figured it out than people get frustrated trying to listen to us because we all sound like mush mouth.
Yeah, but that's a little bit enough on our dramatic end of our state level. I really haven't seen that much drama between Phillips and Desjardins.
Yeah, I mean, it's also. I mean, I think Desjardins is running a campaign kind of similar to Sapicki.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of noise. He's running on his reputation as a hard right Republican.
She offered to debate, didn't she? I believe.
Yeah, I mean,
and then he turned it down again.
Pretty much everyone we've had on the show has offered to debate their opponents. Their opponents. I think it was Sapicki that he did sort of like one event with AJ. I think.
Like a radio show or something.
There was a radio show debate which I didn't get to watch, and there was like
that was closed,
like a forum kind of thing.
Yeah, they did a forum with just teachers. Yeah,
but for the rest of them, we're talking about Justin Canoe versus
Dr. Mark Green.
Is it Mark Green? Okay, but against Green. Green basically has ducked him this entire time, as far as I can tell.
Sure.
Is Green the Republican?
Green is the Republican. Green is the guy who was nominated for Secretary of the Army, and the Army brass said no. He's way too extreme in his ideology. He doesn't represent the values of the Army. We don't want him. And then he withdrew his nomination. So now he's running for U.S. Congress. On basically, he's the one who doesn't want there to be basically government-supported health care because he wants people to go to church to get their physical needs met so they can come to Christ. That was what he said.
Yeah, that's
me.
That's Dr.
Pretty
Green.
much anybody look it up.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, like that in my area.
I don't know if y'all are probably very familiar with some of the crap that's come out of Ted Cruz's mouth. So
yeah,
and I mean I don't think Beto's gonna win.
What is actually, let's jump to that. What has Cruz said recently that's kind of wackadoo? Because I remember during his 2016,
he's gonna take away barbecue or something. That Beto's gonna end barbecue.
No, he said that he could share a prison cell next to Hillary Clinton.
Beto?
Yeah, that's what Ted Cruz said most recently. That's the most recent thing. Right? Like that's what he said like 2 days ago. Yeah.
That they
that's
should.
That's what he said at that Houston rally where Trump announced that he was a nationalist.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Wait, Ted Cruz, like, they got her on a lock her up chant, and then he was like, and lock Beto up in the cell next to her, because now everyone just likes to platform of, I like to jail my political opponents.
What is it Beto or Beto?
Yeah, I'm white. So.
Okay, yeah. So by the way, with him, what wasn't he arrested for like DUI like during his college years or something?
Yep.
Yeah, when he was
Yeah. So like President Bush II, to George W. Bush.
Yeah.
Why are we locking him up for a DUI that happened 20 years ago or more?
Dude, W had a DWI in the 70s. It had to be hard to get a DWI in the 70s.
That's like getting a DUI. That's like getting a DUI in Orleans Parish right now. That was a running joke when I was there, at least, was that if you got a DUI in Orleans Parish, you pretty much
You
had to have run up on a sidewalk and hit somebody.
Like you had to run over a nun kind of thing.
Like, I had a friend.
I mean, yeah, that's accurate.
I was with a friend in college who got an offender bender on South Carrollton Avenue, which is one of the major avenues, like uptown New Orleans.
Yeah, go on.
And anyway, the cop that showed up had an open 40 in his seat. Like he just screwed the top back on it, set it in his seat when he was doing the report. Like the dude obviously reeked of beer, and I worked
at a cafe that was like the cop stop or whatever it was, so like they would sometimes like order food and get calls, and then they'd have to leave, but they'd like call us and we'd like run the food outside to like cop cars. They're like in the middle of a fucking car chase or something. So I mean, like, yeah, no, like I had no worries.
Yeah, you're not getting a DUI in Orleans Parish unless you are really trying.
Unless I run into my house with my car.
Exactly, or you hit somebody on a sidewalk that you should not have been driving.
Like I said, that was the nun joke I was trying to get out.
That's actually not accurate, because if you drive off quick, I don't know.
You might be okay.
Like, like, look, that penguin
takes them a long time to respond, is all I'm saying.
That's very true. Oh man, yeah, they just don't care. I had somebody I knew.
That's a horrible joke, though. We shouldn't joke about that.
Okay, but
they're
it's serious.
They're fine cops. It's fine. No.
Yeah, no, but they have other things.
It's a hard parish to be a cop in.
That's what I was about to say. Is that they have a lot more to worry about than DUIs. They're not even concerned. Don't hurt anybody.
Anyway, so back to Beto, however you want to say his name.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot.
Beto.
Okay, so Beto, and he's running against Cruz. Boy, would I like to see Cruz lose. But it does not seem particularly likely. That's what I'm getting from everything that I've read about it.
20%.
It's a 1 in 5 chance.
He's got 5 to 1 or whatever.
Wow, he was doing much better than that before Kavanaugh, wasn't he?
Is this the Kavanaugh effect? That's a good question.
I don't really know how many polls were taken before then.
I remember Beto doing pretty neck and neck.
There was one poll that happened in the beginning of October, so post Kavanaugh, that had for like a time frame of like October 2nd through the 5th, out of 1,000 likely voters who were registered in Texas, he was up by 9 points. According to 538.
Okay.
But for the most part, Cruz has always had at least a 4-point lead. Like sometimes it dips below a 4-point, and then one day Beto was up by 9 points in early October, and that Cruz has barely ever hit the 9-point swing.
Okay. So I mean, I guess we can call it a toss-up, but the gut's saying Cruz.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I've heard him probable double digits win.
Wow.
Yeah, 8 to 10 or higher.
So the Democrats might as well just not count on taking the Senate at this point.
I mean, again,
I think that they had again, according to 538, they have a 17% chance of flipping the Senate. But they have an 89% chance of flipping the House. But I'm still I don't know. I'm a very cynical person.
Yeah, I was going to say, go ahead, Brandon.
I would argue that the Bredesen-Blackburn Senate race in the state of Tennessee would probably be a better bet for a Democratic win than Texas.
So? I thought Blackburn was polling really well right now.
I'm pretty sure I think, go ahead, Brandon.
Blackburn has a lot of energy in my area. But, I am seeing a stronger youth turnout if I talk to people on UT campus or Maribel College, which are the local colleges in the area, where you would see the most liberals, and they've got a good amount of energy on the Bredesen side. So I don't know, but I would say there's a good chance there. That would be my bet.
That's a risk factor that's in play in the Beto Cruz race, in that, I mean, they normally pull through landlines for the most part, and there, the way that he wins is if people who haven't voted before actually vote. And by people, I'm not meaning individual people. I mean a demographic. 18 to 24-year-olds actually vote. Like, like most people don't really start voting until they're at least 25, but that's sort of like the unknown factor. And Beto's been going to all of the college campuses in the past days. Move. That's what he's doing.
That's a very smart move.
That is definitely good. That is definitely a smart move. I can't imagine waiting till you're 25.
I know. Well, we're wonks too, though.
Yeah, that's true.
We started.
Hey, I voted. I'm 23.
That's
there you go.
But I mean, seriously, predictably, that
But I mean, you're very more
millennials
politically engaged than I was.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon, you're extremely more politically engaged than I was, just by being interested in coming on a political debate hangout and stuff. Like, I definitely was that interested when I was 23. I'm 31.
That's because of my father. That's why I'm politico. I'm a politico. That's because of my father.
But I mean, I think that there's something to be said about that. I think that is a demographic that's unaccounted for.
Unfortunately, for most Democrats, I didn't go completely Democrat down the line. So, oops.
We elect judges here. There's some great judges who are Republican that I'm voting for.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, I only had 4 races that I could vote in because I'm out in the county, and I voted a split. I voted for some Democrats and some Republicans, depending.
Sure. Well, I mean, you did say you were going to vote straight Democrat ticket, so I'll let that go.
Oh my God, you did say that.
Like many times.
I actually said that I would vote straight Democrat ticket on a national level, and I did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that particular caveat.
Okay, well, hopefully we have some fans that hate me enough that will go through.
I hate you enough right now, but it's okay.
If you hate me enough, then go review the audio and bring me the proof. But I did say that from the get-go, is that I was going to vote nationally.
Well, whether or not you said it's, I mean,
regardless,
fine,
who cares?
That's okay.
I did
right?
On the national level. I did vote straight Democrat. I mean, I only had 2 races to vote in, and it was Marsha Blackburn and Bill Bredesen.
That's pretty much
and Desjardins and Phillips. Like, I've never voted for Desjardins and never would, because the whole forcing mistresses to have an abortion while also
claiming to be pro-life.
Nope. I don't.
What?
Do that shit.
Wait, what?
Scott Desjardins. He's
See,
we have. I don't know if this is unique to Tennessee, but we have so many of our elected officials make national headlines for being complete just fuckheads.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we're good.
And Desjardins is one of them, because he has police come to his house for like threatening to kill himself and dry firing a gun into
all kinds of
the
shit
air and like just crazy like antics.
And then he at least forced one mistress to have an abortion, but he's
I heard about that story.
Yeah.
Forced? What do you mean by forced?
Like, paid her money, pushed her into it, like
coerced.
Yeah. I mean,
so definitely not.
So he was a doctor.
Didn't just say, "Hey, baby, will you get this abortion because it's gonna fuck my whole life up." It was more like, "Hey, if you don't get this abortion,
hey, we have a choice, and I'd like you to exercise it."
Yeah, but while I try to take it away from everyone else, I don't. My problem is I don't like my politicians to say one thing and do another. I just don't like.
Well,
I mean, people do that constantly.
Like convenience.
I don't either. But I'm just saying that, like, I understand it's human.
Well said.
It's human nature to be hypocritical. Like, we all are hypocritical about some things. We hold hard stances on things, and we give ourselves passes because we don't think the rules apply to us. We all do that in some facet of our lives or another. But when you're a politician and it's one of those major issues like abortion, that's disgusting to me. I don't like it, and I'd never vote for you based on.
If you're saying that's who you are to get people to vote for you, and it's not who you are, then you're just a liar.
Exactly.
Like, that's all it is.
I don't trust you with my representation in Congress. No, thank you.
Yeah, because you are a man who is always going to seek convenience. Like, I don't remember exactly what Brandon just said, but yeah.
Well, it's abortions at one's own convenience. That's essentially all it is when you are inconsistent like that.
Exactly. It's only okay when you need it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so I've never supported Desjardins, and I never will. I mean, sorry, Scott. That's just the way it is. Not gonna happen.
And again, in the whole,
that was a predictable choice.
In the Phillips campaign, Mariah Phillips, we've had her on the show twice, I believe.
Yes.
And she's had a very active campaign. She's out there hustling. Challenged him to debate. I don't know how many times. As far as I know, he's always ducked her.
Yep.
And it's very similar to the
Sapicki
thing, and the Mark Green thing. that we have Republicans who are just running on being Republicans and being, pro-Trump and to build a wall.
They can carry their section.
Blackburn.
Reblog a bunch
and Blackburn,
of
yes, exactly. So all of these people, like they've
that's such a cheap campaign.
That's how they're doing it, and they're refusing.
Actually extremely affordable. Like they don't even do much.
Brandon, what did you say?
I'm going to have to go on a quick tirade for the mass misinformation campaign that the Blackburn campaign has done. It's ridiculous. They have blasted YouTube, blasted Facebook. I mean, I see it over and over again. They're hitting it hard, just like going after Bredesen's gubernatorial record when he was governor. Just like saying, oh, he's just as bad as every other liberal, and oh, he should share a prison with Hillary Clinton. That's another one. They said that.
I haven't seen
that. Also stuff like what else? Oh, yeah, like wasting government funds, but I don't remember what the particular attack was related to that, but something along those lines. What else? Oh yeah, the latest thing was a sexual assault thing, hiding sexual assault. From state employees. Yes, I mean, all sorts of shit. It's ridiculous.
It's a weird Kavanaugh wave going on with that.
Yeah, we've made sexual assault a hot button issue, but now I know what he's talking about. They're accusing Bredesen of silencing victims, if I remember correctly, because of some legislation that was passed before he was governor.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was. Yeah, it was several years before he was governor, and they're accusing him of it. And I remember seeing that and being like, "Wait a minute, was he even governor?"
Wasn't her very first campaign attack ad against him had to get like pulled or something because of like how blatantly spurious it was? I think I remember something about that. And here's the thing,
I heard something like that.
We're all kind of sitting here puzzling at it, and it's interesting, Brandon, that you brought these things up because it's all the TV ads, right?
Yeah,
we're younger people, right? We're all
they're putting them on Hulu.
Who watches TV, right?
Well, yeah. Well, I'm getting
the boomers.
Well, they're going at YouTube. They're going at Facebook. Yeah, they're going at I think Instagram too.
I'm seeing it on Hulu most often because I'm too cheap to pay Hulu for ad free. I'm just like, look, I already.
Oh my god, it's $2 more.
I don't care.
Literally $2 more, and there's no ads.
Yeah, still don't care, and I'm not giving you more money for your half-ass TV service. Anyway.
Oh, get right.
Anyway,
dude, so $2 more, and you'll change your mind.
No, okay. Look,
Hulu's great because I don't have any ads.
Okay, I've got principles, but
that's
anyway.
a weird hill to die on.
Okay, but my point is that I'm seeing so many political ads on Hulu. That's all it is.
I'm
over
not.
and over again. Of course, you're
I'm not seeing any.
What was the group
that must be nice.
For $2. $2, I get that.
No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. No, Hulu. Right, you don't get money. When you give me all 5 seasons of Letterkenny, you can have my $2 extra a month.
I mean,
we're going
maybe there are extra perks.
Yeah, I'm just saying. But
anyway,
so okay, outside of Hulu, most of these things run as TV ads.
Network ads.
Older people watch TV. They watch the news media on TV, the punditry, what have you, and that's where most of these commercials get aired. Because that's why.
Remember, YouTube is another one. They're going at hard.
I guess I haven't seen it really on YouTube, but like it's only when I'm at the doctor's office, when the TV's on. That's the only time I ever see these political ads because I don't watch TV. Like I don't watch it. So like it's really interesting because that tells you who they're targeting. They're targeting the older generation by and large is sort of the point.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think a piece of that puzzle is though like they're having to adjust to. I mean. They've been able to use TV media commercial ads for what? At least a solid like 20 I'm going to say more like 45 years.
I'd say at least 40 years. Yeah. I mean, at least since the 60s.
It's a generation, and it's the generation who's grown up now. They've grown up with. It was really interesting. I was reading an Atlantic article about this today about essentially that boomers, people over 50, are really bad at separating fact from opinion.
I saw that article.
Like really bad at separating fact from opinion because they grew up with the advent of the 24-hour news cycle and basically like shock jock media, like news punditry, and they don't know how to differentiate.
You know who is a big talk show host when I was a kid that my dad always listened to is G. Gordon Liddy. Anybody know who G. Gordon Liddy is?
No.
G. Gordon Liddy is the guy.
I've heard the name a few times.
He's the guy who broke into Watergate. Yeah, that guy, the guy who was doing the actual burglary. Like he was a huge conservative talk show host, huge forever. The baby boomers grew up with him. That was their Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah,
I mean, I grew up with him, listening to him on the radio because my dad always had it on. But
I have to have a complete geek segue here for a second. Spider-Man, J. Jonah Jameson. He's like basically Rush Limbaugh in that game.
Oh, that's great.
Like he gets on the radio and just spouts complete
I've
nonsense. It's like Alex Jones-esque almost. It's even more than Limbaugh. But anyway, sorry. Back to what we're talking about. I couldn't resist. No, because seriously, he talks about Spider-Man. He does this and no, and like yells at callers who disagree with him, and then like throws them off. Like it's really hilarious. Whoever that voice actor is doing a great job. Back to what we're talking about. Predictions. So Bredesen, Blackburn.
I'm going
Brandon,
Blackburn.
you think it's going to be a toss-up? Do you think
I would say it's going to be really, really close, but it might very well be Bredesen that goes out on that one and wins.
Really?
I would be.
But that's it'll be like 1 or 2 points, or
Is that
maybe
going Democrat or going Republican?
That's going
I don't
Democrat.
know.
That's
Means
going
Democrat.
Democrat.
that would go Democrat. I would argue that's probably what will happen because I think Blackburn has just discredited herself over and over again. And there is a good bit of energy behind Bredesen, but there is a lot of energy behind Blackburn as well. So
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean,
think-
I'm going Blackburn at this point. I'm ready to hang it up. I think Blackburn's got it.
Interesting. I guess I'd probably give it to Blackburn too, for this reason. Because right now it's been within the margin of error for I don't know how many weeks now. Because I've been watching it. It's like, oh, Blackburn's up a little bit. Bredesen was up a little bit before. It's kind of a toss-up. I think it's going to go Blackburn simply because I think Bredesen has said and done nothing that actually reaches across aisles. And
He reached across aisles with a Kavanaugh opinion.
he did not, and that's the problem.
He did. He said he would vote for Kavanaugh.
Yeah, but that's not
reaching. That's reaching.
Okay, he
across the
tried
aisle.
to reach across the aisles, but I mean, there's a difference between trying and actually doing. That's what I'm saying. It's just he tried to reach across the aisles, but like anyone who's like super like hardcore pro Kavanaugh, she's a liar, she's a slut, like all of that garbage. Anyone who really wants to confirm Kavanaugh is not going to vote for Bredesen anyway.
That's true.
There's really no overlap there. Right?
Well, that's fine, but he was a 2-term governor for Tennessee. That does give him a pretty good political record as far as like understanding what he's done and having like a good evidence-based vote that you can have.
And he was a pretty good bipartisan governor for the for the most part.
I guess that's the aspect I'm not considering as much.
That people do remember him as governor,
and that's probably why it's a toss-up.
He's pretty moderate governor. Like he didn't do anything wild or crazy. He still gained money and still balanced the budget and still built our coffers. Even as a Democrat.
True.
Because if you,
I don't know, maybe that gives me more reason to be hopeful.
Even as a Democrat.
Yeah, no. Keep in mind that in Tennessee, we view Democrats as people who lose money and spend it stupidly.
Which they do.
Which they do.
Maybe
some Republicans. Everybody does.
Ones do. But,
then happy society. That's what.
Yeah, no, I mean that.
It sounds like one of your most recent governors did not. I mean, which Democrat did?
Democrat that built money would have been
that lost.
That lost money.
Yeah.
Sunquist, maybe was Sunquist man, that's good.
I was not living in this state at that time.
I was young at that time. Bredesen did well. Haslam has done a damn good job, but he's a Republican. The Republicans don't like him. They call him a rhino because he's a moderate Republican.
I think rhino, and that's Republican in name only, but that actually means I'm not a right wing idiot blowhard.
Yeah, I'm not.
I think that's what rhino means.
Yeah, moderate Republican. But he's added
badge of pride now.
He's added like $1.5 billion to our surplus. He's done pretty well. Yeah. And not only that, but he gave us free community college.
I don't like Haslam, but I don't hate him.
And he's a Republican in name only. Interesting. Yeah. So can you put
No, they're just saying that Bredesen got us on the right track and was actually building a surplus. Then Haslam took over, and Haslam.
I'm just interested in why you said even as a, or whatever you said, even as a Democrat.
Even as Democrat,
like that's a gut. That almost seemed like a gut reaction by you. So,
but I mean, it's historically true. Like, how many Democrats can you point to that were in an executive position that built money and
Bill Clinton?
No, that was for the national deficit. That's not for actual debt. He didn't have us out of debt. He had the deficit balance and the positives.
It was literally the greatest time in the American economy ever.
Okay.
The dot-com time?
Yeah, I mean, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to.
Was it?
I don't want to attribute
exactly.
the .com bubble to Bill Clinton.
Well, not exactly to Bill Clinton, but
about the only thing that you can say Bill Clinton did to help that along is deregulation to some degree. But even in that case, I mean, it wasn't really like a regulatory hawk. Typical Democrat.
I was going to say, I don't know how much credit I want to give Bill Clinton for the .com bubble. But we can talk about the mortgage. We can talk about the mortgage bubble too.
Well,
two different things, but what we do know is we were in. I think it was like I'm going to say the wrong number. We had a we were out of debt. What are you talking about? That is what he did. We had a boom. We've had a bull market that was doing extraordinarily well. Mm-hmm. We had like a record GDP for, I think it was like sustained for over 3 years. And we didn't have any kind of deficit.
I don't think, no, we did.
Yeah, we had no deficit.
No, we still had a deficit. What it was is that we moved it from the negative column towards the positive column. If you want to talk about financial decisions that he made that before,
guys, one at a time. This is not a Riley factor. One at a time.
Having a deficit means that over the course of a given year, like you spent more than you took in. Having debt is not necessarily a bad thing for any, country in general. And if you think about it from the perspective, like every country is going to have debt, and that is a good thing. If you're able to like take out loans and everything, it shows you're doing well and you're being productive. A similar analogy is with a mortgage. The fact that I have a lot of debt because I'm on a mortgage, do you think that I'm not like having a good year on what I'm able to grow income wise? No. Am I taking it or am I going, or do I have a deficit?
No, I understand.
Which can be added to the debt, but
I believe what we're saying the same thing, I believe, is that he still increased the national debt, but he had balanced the budget well enough. There was not a deficit. He was not running a deficit.
He did it at a slow pace. The debt grew at the slowest pace during his presidency.
He made a lot of money.
Yes, exactly. So there was no deficit.
So I mean, like you have debt, and like is there a reason why I should just liquidate all of my assets right now and pay off my mortgage?
No,
should I do that?
What I was saying is the national
as an individual. So like paying off debt, a country having debt and paying it off, like I'm going down to zero. I mean,
again, I'm asking a question that's very specific. From what I remember, the national debt still increased under Clinton. It just did so at a slower pace, and that he had actually balanced the budget so that we did not carry a deficit but a surplus. We were making money, not losing it.
Yeah, correct. And I mean, and he was like, and he was on time on all of his bills.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
And made a lot of money.
Yes, it's a good thing. All those are good things.
Okay, so my understanding is, just so I can clarify for anybody who might watch this later or whatever, or for my own edification. It's not the debt; it's the ability to pay back the debt.
Exactly.
If you're showing you can pay back debt. We're good.
Carrying debt is not a problem. It's your ability to manage your bills and pay that debt.
Right.
Exactly.
And I mean, honestly, if you have some debt, it shows good things. It shows that you're investing into your infrastructure or something. It shows you're like spending money on a big as an individual.
It shows that people can loan you money.
Exactly. I was going to say. I mean, we can talk about this.
Your economy is healthy enough to be able to incur debt. In other words, we get loans.
And so we can talk about this on a personal level very easily. You can't have credit if you don't have debt. You build a credit score, and your credit rating goes up based on how well you manage your debt.
Sure.
Right.
If you don't have,
they don't know about your ability to repay. So like having debt is like I actually don't ever think that I see like memes sometimes that are like we're this much in debt, and I'm like I don't I mean, is that more than we can handle? Like, no, it seems like it's not. Like, it seems like we're doing pretty good, and I want us to keep investing into our culture and our society and everything. So yeah, but deficits running extremely like bleeding money nonstop year after year and everything. That's why I mean, Democrats balance budgets.
Yeah, so sometimes, but anyway,
it depends on the Democrat.
It does. And what I was trying to say in my initial statement, my point still stands. What I was trying to say initially was that in general, especially for Haslam, what we were talking about with Haslam and Bredesen before him is not only did they carry surpluses, they took us out of debt and actually put money in our banks. We don't carry a debt in Tennessee. The state of Tennessee is not in debt. We run well over the debt limit. Like we spend cash in Tennessee. We don't take things out on credit that hurt us. We pay for it in cash. We're about a $2 billion surplus in our coffers right now.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you just said earlier, like, you can't like build credit without debt. Do you think that Tennessee is just like living on its own and not building credit? Like, come on, Tennessee,
of course we're building credit
as an entity has debt.
Yeah, we don't carry debt, is what I'm saying. We pay it off every year it's done with. Like, we have the money to pay the bills and we pay it. That's a common practice.
And yet, at the same time, healthcare is a huge issue in Tennessee.
Yes, it is.
Well, but I mean, we
let those things lapse. I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying
because we don't want to raise taxes.
Started it as a Democrat.
Well, it's because we don't want to create an income tax. That's the main reason we don't.
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't have good healthcare. We don't have a lot of these things. All stems from not having a state income.
Well, I mean, the healthcare thing. That's
I don't want one either, but.
That's about not accepting the Medicaid expansion. That was federal dollars that would have come our way. It's something we're all paying into as citizens anyway, and like we just refused it because it's got Obama's name on it.
So Texas did too. Left like close to $1 billion just like on the table.
Yeah. How bitter and cynical can the Republican legislature be?
Like here's money to fund healthcare for your citizens.
Yeah.
No,
we're not going to take it.
And so I want to support candidates that will approve the Medicaid expansion. People who will not do that, by the way, yes, this one's coming right at you, Bill Lee, right?
Okay.
Running for governor. Yeah.
Yep.
Oops.
I voted for him.
I voted for him too. I don't know what to tell you because I don't know how long that law is going to last. 9 rural hospitals have closed. I'm aware. And I don't.
My healthcare sucks. Like I pay out the ass for everything. Like I'm not happy about this shit. And it's just to thumb our nose at Obama.
Sure wasn't an issue before Obamacare, but whatever. Again,
no, healthcare was still
it was still shit.
It was a problem that was getting worse year by year. This was intended as a stopgap.
No, I understand, and that's exactly.
And we said no because.
And I'm saying that I don't know how long that legislation is going to last. Period. That's not.
Well, I'm not basing my vote
on healthcare.
What? Well, not.
Well, the ACA is getting slowly undercut year by year as far as how they're.
I mean, basically in Texas, the
ACA will be dead in like.
Yeah, the
ACA is a year or 2 years.
The ACA is a failure, and it's on its
I don't know too much about it, but the lawsuit that's like going to define it all is like in Texas. I think it might be in. No, I don't think it's in Houston, but I don't know. Maybe it is in Houston, or somewhere. It's the lawsuit in Texas about oh God, what is the issue? I don't know. Anyway, it's and it's in like district court in Texas with a younger judge.
Mm-hmm. My understanding is that the ACA is on its way out. It's been pretty much a huge failure across the board, and I will dare say that may be because governors were rejecting it. Sure.
Yeah, that's
it's working well in states that accepted the expansion. It's not working well in states that did not.
And what I'm saying is that
which is divided along partisan lines.
I didn't vote for a governor based on whether or not they're going to resurrect the ACA. That's my point. That's not a.
I didn't vote based on healthcare.
I guess I don't understand what motivates
I voted
you
based
to vote.
on fiscal responsibility. That was the difference.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to address that aside from that's not a major issue for me. My issues are can you actually run this state in a way that's both making us money.
So the healthcare needs of the people of Tennessee are not something that concern you.
That's not what I'm saying. You're framing it differently. But I personally believe, based on the evidence, the ACA is about to collapse. So I'm not really too worried about your position on the ACA. Because the ACA is either going to be repealed in the next few years.
Yeah, you know,
they don't have to repeal
taking away from protections for pre-existing conditions. Like
No,
this is
again,
everyone should.
I'm not
care
arguing
about.
over that. That's not a state issue.
But
That's a national issue.
mean,
whether or not you
being
take the
able to
money, it's
stay
the
on
governor's
your
issue.
being able to stay on your parents' healthcare
That was
insurance
great.
too.
No, I love that. I love income-based repayment for federal student loans. Like all the things that came from the ACA like that, those are great. I'm not saying that I want the ACA to fail. I'm talking about the reality of it. This is a state-run election for governor. This has nothing to do with what's going to happen.
So you'll elect someone who will. So you want someone to run who you know is just going to definitely hammer in that last nail in the coffin.
I actually don't care.
The nail's already been hammered.
The thing is falling apart.
There's a thing I noticed, and this is going to maybe be a little bit
It's dead anyway.
and I can't get around it. But like when I talk to you and certain other libertarians, you only seem to care about things that affect you directly.
This is a state,
and if it's outside of your personal interest, not just as a Tennessee and whatever, but you as an individual, if it doesn't affect you, you just don't give a shit.
This is a state election. It doesn't affect me.
I've had a similar experience. Yeah.
It just takes self-interest in like
this is a national.
This is
a national debate over something that is on its last leg. That's nothing that we can do anything about. It doesn't
have to be on its last leg.
Okay,
but it is. It doesn't matter.
I think that's something.
It is.
Well, if we elect people who care about these things and show interest in it,
but honestly,
then it wouldn't be on its last
dead, dude.
I
don't think budgeted it. There's no budget for it. They're slowly taking the budgeting out.
We're arguing about something on a state level.
Money, it will die.
I'm not.
Well, but David, I think you have a point about the liberty. Like there is something about.
And I don't want to go tangential on that. But
no,
yes,
I mean I understand what you're saying. That yes, libertarians look selfish because we believe in personal responsibility. I get that. Yep, heard it before. Sorry.
Yeah,
but we do.
It makes us look bad.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm just that's an interesting.
That doesn't mean that I want to. It doesn't mean that I want to shit on people, especially not on a national level. But again, what I'm saying
why not? Why? But I mean, if you agree,
I don't believe that the state governor race should be based on this because I don't think the ACA is going to make it long enough for it to matter.
And I agree with that point.
That's why it's not in my consideration. I'm not holding out hope that we elect some Democratic governor who's going to take over the state and say, yeah, I will somehow convince our legislature and everything to take this money and we'll do it. That's not going to fucking happen. This is Tennessee. Get fucking real.
Yeah,
that's such. I mean,
it's super cynical, but I have to agree. It's a fair point.
Why would you base your decision on who's going to be governor based on a non-probability on something that's not going to?
Well, I mean, but why are you basing your decision on who should be governor on
on state level issues?
It sounds like you're actively deciding to not care about the ACA.
I'm actively telling you I don't care about the ACA. Because we do not have an impact on it in the state of Tennessee. Realistically, I can't control what the Tennessee General Assembly does.
It's like,
the Tennessee General Assembly isn't.
There's no way in hell that my voice will get heard on any kind of issue that's on this.
The Tennessee General Assembly
So let me look into this person from a different perspective and see if there's other reasons to go for it. So
the Tennessee General Assembly is like 85% Republican. It is not going to accept.
So you got to start.
So down ballot votes matter too.
Yeah.
And you know that I voted Democrat in my representative for that. I did, but it's not going to change. And AJ Holmes may win. I voted for the man. I just really can't get behind.
Thank you for
what
that.
He's doing.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think that there is a thing going on in the country now where a lot more people are tired of it doesn't matter.
Bill Lee is a good moderate Republican. I like the man. I think he's going to do a great job as governor, and I think he's going to win the governorship handily. I don't even think it's a question. I mean, not only that,
that's not the point. I'm just saying though that
the point is that we're not going to accept the healthcare expansion. It's not going to happen. Tennessee is not going to take it.
Yeah. So who cares? Already accept the loss.
Then that's not an issue that I'm going to vote on.
As a risk factor is the rise in people who just aren't as politically engaged, who just generally wouldn't fall into that. We're down to less than 50% of our registered eligible voter population actually participating in democracy. So I think that, we have a close to 60% of the voting population that's, a toss-up now. And I personally hope that not everyone is I think if they're actually coming out to vote, they're of the thought of maybe instead of just thinking like it doesn't matter, this will lose. So.
Hang on, no, I mean, let me follow that up a little bit because I understand what you're saying on the ideological end. What I'm trying to say is that it is a non-factor in this race.
You're being you keep going back really specific, and I just had a general idea. So
no, I know.
The general idea doesn't necessarily apply to your specific fact pattern. This is like the bigger. So like, let's not.
I was
trying
specifically
to bring it back down to the.
I was specifically
the micro. I'm thinking macro.
I was specifically called out for my choice on how I voted, and I'm explaining why. Healthcare should not be a decision or a factor that you really weigh in when you vote for governor in Tennessee, because no matter who's your governor,
a lot of people might disagree with you on that.
Well, let's go one further with it. Hang on, guys. Because there's something else I wanted to get into. Billy, as a candidate, has. He very much I don't want to say parroted because that sounds pejorative. He very much echoed one of our podcast guests, Justin Cornett, and Brandon, I think you know who that is. He's the field director for AFP Tennessee, talking about working instead of government healthcare, that he wants to see private nonprofit organizations take over a larger role in administering the healthcare of the citizenry. That includes faith-based initiatives. And basically, he's strongly suggesting that basically, this is kind of closer to what Mark Green was saying, that people should turn to the church, essentially. He's saying
all right,
the church.
I'm going to push back on that, and I'm actually going to disagree with Justin Cornett on that also. You want to know what that can potentially lead to? That's a very indirect road of going towards almost theocratic healthcare system, and that may very well lead to even theocratic government over time. That can be pretty dangerous if you make all citizenry rely on just faith-based organizations. And I'm saying this as a Catholic, so that kind of makes it even more.
Yep. No, I'm a big proponent of. Go ahead, Brandon. Go ahead.
So I don't buy that position, but I didn't vote for Bill Lee based on healthcare. I voted for Bill Lee because he's a moderate conservative I can take. I can deal with the fact that he's a moderate conservative. Doesn't bother me. He's not a Trumpite in my book. And he's fiscally responsible, so I'll take it and run with it.
His positions are fiscally responsible, and he's not a wackadoo.
Yeah, basically. So I take it and run with it. And honestly, I don't really agree mostly with Carl Dean on any real specific issues. And I don't know. I didn't buy his way of selling his positions either, like I did with Bredesen. Yeah, Bredesen had a good way of selling his positions in a way that I could find palatable. And so I went for it.
And that's definitely a reason why I voted for Bredesen. Also, I have met Marsha Blackburn, and I think that she's just an absolute Tea Party shill, and I can't stand her. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's very much what I get. And I can get seeing Billy elected, which seems probable. Don't get me wrong. Again, coming back to predictions, like to me, this is not the worst possible outcome. This isn't Trump 2.0. We're all screwed. America's screwed.
But Ted Cruz is.
Well, let's we'll pivot to that in just a second. But yeah, this was again about Lee and sort of faith-based initiatives. When he was asked about the sort of the opioid crisis in Tennessee, and it's absolutely a crisis in Tennessee. Lee's response is to hand the problem over to private organizations, including religious groups. State government is never going to solve this problem, he said. And I have said that when I'm governor, we'll have an office of faith-based and community initiatives, or our nonprofit community or community organizations, our faith community, where we create an environment where they can play a bigger role.
They should play a bigger role, but making them the dominating force and taking government. What?
Well, no, I mean, look, guys, NA and AA are both faith-based organizations, and they're basically our best combat that we've got so far against the opioid addiction. Like, I think I understand what he's trying to say, and he's pandering to his audience. I don't know. I don't want to put words in his mouth. I don't want to see state tax dollars pumped into the coffers of religious organizations. because that's an impermissible entanglement with government religion.
Well, he's also
that leads
he's
to
also
theocracy,
a
ultimately.
Well, but I also think that like
accommodations, too,
AA
in
and
terms of
NA
church-state
aren't
separation.
like there's a faith aspect to those organizations, but they are not like
Yeah, that's the first step. First step, let go and let God. Yeah.
yeah, well, it's just like you're powerless or something.
Yeah,
Like
that
seeking
God is in
serenity.
control, and the whole thing is based on God being in control. There's a reason a lot of
But it's not a
atheists-
specific. It is not a specific God.
No, but it's but I'm saying there's a reason a
Isn't
lot of
it?
atheists don't jive well with NA and AA. It just doesn't work for them because that's.
But they
it
don't
really
say
is.
the word God. I had a
Yes.
friend who is
Well,
in
it's higher
AA.
power.
There's a higher power.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
get
it.
it. I'm just saying that shit doesn't fly with some people. Like
There's a strong
Well-
implication. And anyway, I don't want to get too bogged down in the details.
I don't
of
either. I'm
NAA.
just saying, but they are faith-based and faith-funded. So I mean,
I'm saying turning over the idea of we're going to solve addiction problems with faith-based organizations is problematic for people who
Well,
don't have other avenues.
I agree.
Essentially,
As
if you're
long
not
as
of the
my
faith community.
taxpayer money doesn't go into the coffers of those faith-based organizations, we end up in a borderline theocracy. They can
Well,
turn.
if
they
he's
can
gonna
do
create
that.
an
That's
office-
Well,
fine.
but didn't you just say you didn't care if some money went to them?
If he's creating, hang on a second. Lee said he was going to create an office of faith-based and community organizations.
yeah,
So
Right.
someone's working that, right?
yeah, no.
So
I
that
understand.
is de facto some tax dollars going to fund
I
that,
agree.
right?
Yeah,
I'm a
salary and
separation- yeah. Someone has to staff it. Someone
Okay.
is going to be supporting
And
liaison.
I will straight up tell you,
yeah,
I find that
office expenses, computer.
problematic. I find that to be problematic.
And this is why, and we came across a similar situation. We were speaking with Mr. Cornett, who I still like a lot and I respect, but he talked about essentially as sort of alternatives to serving jail time,
incarceration,
Incarceration
which is a whole nother animal.
right. And you actually were the one who debated him even more strongly than I did.
Yeah, because
On the issue, because you're saying, well, either we have to go through this faith-based organization or go to jail, right?
yeah, you lose your liberty. That's a
Right.
huge problem. That's a big problem when your freedom's at
Yeah,
stake.
but if you
And
keep on
essentially what you're saying
taking, if you
is
keep on taking
you
baby
lose-
steps, one day you wake up and
Totally get it, and I see the problematic end on this. Still not enough for me to think that I shouldn't support Bill Lee.
So if I am in a rural part of Tennessee, I have an opioid addiction. I'm trying to get better. There's really the only option available on the table
Church of Christ
is to go to some Church of Christ where they're going to preach at me and tell
Yeah.
me that I'm broken inside with sin and all this stuff. And that's my only avenue really of getting better. Like that's
hey,
the only
Terry
kind of
joined the
thing.
conversation.
Hey, Terry.
Hey, Terry.
Terry's joining us. So I'm just saying, for people who are not of the faith, that should be a huge issue, and it's a huge, to me,
It is. It's
constitutional issue.
disconcerting. I don't think that's actually.
Yeah,
gonna
I
get any
mean, I
traction.
don't think you have
That's
to be
not
like,
a deal breaker, but that
It
is
is for me.
problematic.
No, no, definitely.
I'm the guy who said I would
problematic.
go to jail before I would go to.
Yeah, but if I have an opioid addiction, I'm going to take the help where I can get it. But also, that's not me.
Oh, here's
And
another
Dennis has joined us.
Hello.
Are you driving?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. Dennis, where do you hail from? Where are you at right now?
I'm in Irvine, California.
Very cool. Very cool. We're talking
Yeah, I
about
just got off
midterm election predictions. We don't know anybody really in California.
Not particularly.
So who's running in California, and
what are your predictions?
what are your predictions?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Okay. Well, it's great seeing you. Dennis, we talk a little bit because I'm a God-hating liberal atheist. That sometimes we talk a little bit of counter-apologetics and what have you with Dennis. That's how I know Dennis, for anybody who's really perplexed at his appearance. But I shared the link to the Hangout in our little group chat. So yeah, we're just spitballing like basically right now church-state separation and
Well,
the Tennessee governor's race.
Terry, I know that we were going to go back to like the Texas races. Terry is also
Yes.
in Texas, and I actually think that he and I probably have very different exposures to the candidates. I still think that Cruz will win. Do you like Cruz, Terry? And just be honest. Just tell me. Just say it.
I like Cruz's politics, I don't necessarily like Cruz.
I like hate. He's horrible, and then also he's just I don't know.
That's the same way I am with Trump, though. I mean, I've hated Trump, literally hated Trump since the 80s.
The thing is, at the end of the day, I don't think that we can ever say that like Trump. I mean, I'll call him a bitch, yes, but in other contexts. But in like the way that I think that Ted Cruz is a bitch, I don't think Trump is a bitch.
No.
And
Okay, so I think you're saying,
but the only reason I could bring myself to pull a lever for Trump is because I remain convinced Hillary should be in prison. There's no way she should be in the White House. So I voted against her. I didn't vote for him. He's won me over since he got in there. Not on a personal level, but on a
policy
level.
But Cruz.
Hang on, but I want to punt a question to Terry on that one. When you're on policy, I can understand on an economic level with the growth that we've had. How do you feel now that the stock market has literally readjusted to pre-2018 in one day?
I'm surprised it took this long. I mean, honestly, I thought it would have happened by now already. I haven't put any money in that thing for a long time because I was expecting the bottom to drop out of it.
That's a funny point. What was the term in the late 90s with the .com boom, the irrational exuberance? That's very much what this always has struck me.
I actually expected it to last longer.
Yeah, you were telling me that today. But here we are.
I kept being amazed that it kept climbing. I couldn't figure out.
I was not, and but this is not that discussion. And I'm on my second glass of wine, so
yeah, I'm doing wrong.
I'm on my second scotch. But yeah, the thing about Cruz, and I can't. There's an I guess understand. He's trying to be an effective politician. He's trying to push policy. I can understand why someone would vote for him just on those grounds. He's doing the things I need to in a way that's similar to Trump. But it's
it's not though.
Well, this is the thing with Cruz that got me. I can't stand to listen. I can't stand to listen to Trump talk. I don't watch the rallies. He sounds like he's drunk to me. But Cruz, he was bucking his own party in order to do things he told us he was going to do. And that's the thing that I love about Trump. He is checking off his campaign promises like a freaking grocery list. And the ones that he hasn't been able to check off, it's because there's been
what are you thinking about whenever you say that? Like, what is Cruz buck?
Hang on a second. Can I interrupt? Can I interrupt for a second? Hey, Dennis, do you have headphones or can you mute your mic? Because we're getting a lot of sort of
kickback
off of you.
Okay. How do I mute my mic?
There you go. Thank you. Yeah, when you get some headphones in, please feel free to jump back in, or if you just want to listen, that's cool. Okay, thank you. But please, guys, continue.
So, go on, Terry.
I'm trying not to ruin.
Remember when he was doing his filibuster, for example? He was the only.
Whenever he read Green Eggs and Ham.
Yeah.
Really?
It wasn't that he read green eggs and ham. He said he was the only one. He was the only one that was doing what he said he was going to do.
Wait a minute. I think you've forgotten my man. You've forgotten my man, Senator Paul Ryan. Or not Paul Ryan. Fuck.
No, what had happened was
I have some respect for Mr.
What had
Mr.
happened
Paul
was there was a vote up to like defund Planned Parenthood in Texas, and Wendy Davis, who ran for governor and lost, and I believe was a state senator, maybe a House, but I think she was a senator.
Yeah, she filibustered for a long time.
And it was like this thing was like stand with Wendy. And so what she did was whenever the vote went down, she took the floor and she had to just talk the entire time. She like said she was going to do this. She wore tennis shoes that day and she had to stay on topic. And it was this big thing that happened in like 2012, 4 years into Ted Cruz's first Senate, or like it was like or maybe like whenever Ted Cruz was running for re-election for his second 6 years. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. And so then there was some, it was like some abortion vote that like wasn't going to get passed, but Ted Cruz said, I'm going to filibuster it, but he just went on the Senate floor And then he like talked for a little while, but he was like, it's time for me to read my daughter's bedtime stories. And then he read Green Eggs and Ham for like a fucking hour. Like, and it's not that long of a story. But like he was
That's all
like
filibustering is. Keeping your gums bumping until you can't do it anymore.
The pregnant pauses were like 95 seconds long. It was like, come on, man. Wait, really? Really? You know, I don't know. And it to me it seemed like a disingenuous just showboat tactic.
Haley, don't hate, babe.
He didn't do anything, and he just read all of it.
Cruz is trying to gain notoriety for that. You know, honestly, I don't. I mean, yeah, the filibuster was silly, and
you're laughing because I'm not wrong. Like
you're absolutely not wrong, Haley. That was embarrassing.
Like, he didn't accomplish a vote, and he just made C-SPAN air him reading Green Eggs and Ham.
I don't think I've ever seen a filibuster that went for any length that didn't get embarrassing at some point.
Well,
they're all
a little embarrassing because I mean, you're just standing
and
there grandstanding.
And the thing is, I'm not gonna lie, there is something. So I'm not gonna lie, Ted Cruz was the Solicitor General in Texas in the early 2000s, and there's a lot of videos of him arguing online, and maybe I've watched them, and maybe I like his style, and maybe I think he's like really good. And I also follow the philosophy of if the plane's going down, you might as well set it on fire. So if Ted Cruz didn't have anything, yeah, I guess he just set it on fire and decided to read Green Eggs and Ham for a long time. But
yeah, I feel that. I can support that. Even.
So, but and that's like anytime he's done these Beto debates, I'm like, Beto, you gotta know what you're dealing with.
Yeah, you're dealing with Ted Cruz. You're dealing with the guy
the thing is,
who said
like,
that
I like watched a debate with my mom.
I remember
and I was just like,
masturbation, right?
Yeah, masturbation should be controlled. And then like his Yale roommate, jumped on there and was like, "Wow, that's
speaking of textualists."
And they were like, "Yeah, the Yale roommate."
No, yeah, that's
like,
right.
Oh yeah, man, that's weird because
there was a satire bill that went through Texas that's still going strong and like might actually pass. Because Ted Cruz put his support behind it, and it was a satire bill that was like pointing out how like controlling women's bodies and stuff.
Right. Yeah, it was about male masturbation, right?
Yeah. And so it was just like, yeah. So basically, if a male is caught masturbating, you totally like killed life by doing that. The potential for life and everything, and you get like it's like a civil and potentially a criminal penalty, and he put his weight behind it, and it's a satire bill that's. God damn it, Terry! Why do you like Ted Cruz?
Yeah, Ted Cruz can eat it
because every sperm is sacred. I don't know.
On those particular subjects, we definitely part ways. Except for, I mean, I don't believe in abortion, but it's not a religious thing with me. I'm not a religious person. I believe in personal responsibility, personal as well as personal freedom. And you have I think you should have the freedom to do what you want as long as you're not hurting other people. But there's consequences to actions, and you can't pass those on to somebody else, like an unborn kid, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean,
okay. I totally feel you, but I do not want to have the abortion debate.
Yeah, we're not doing that tonight. We're not doing that.
And the only reason why my mom,
little girl.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
So let him do that. The thing, okay, I get the thing about the filibuster and the Green Eggs and Ham and it all being silly and whatever. But for me, the thing that really tears it more than anything else was Cruz. I didn't really like him before. The thing that makes me look at him as, you know, you see like the I am Reek kind of references with him.
Sorry,
like, seriously.
Yes, important message talking about.
Go ahead, tell them.
Hi.
Oh, hey there.
Hey.
Say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Oh.
That is adorable.
That's our youngest friend of the Ferment.
That's right. That's our youngest fermenter ever.
But no, and I think I know what you're getting at, and it's why I said like there's probably been a time in my life where I've called Donald Trump a bitch, but the way that I think
I'm hoping Carrie's daughter's out of earshot by now.
Oh yeah. Sorry, Terry.
Oh, he's quiet. He maybe be walking her to bed, which is good. Continue, Haley.
No, it's just that like there's a difference, you know, like you might think a bunch of horrible things about Donald Trump, but you don't think he's a pushover.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. No, I mean, okay.
Well, he pretends to not be a pushover. He's pretty much just.
I don't think he rationally
Pretender.
thinks he's a pushover. Like if he ever gets pushed over, I don't think he knows that was like happening.
I think Donald Trump is one
that's
of
what
those.
we call Alzheimer's. But
I think Donald Trump is one of those people who's never really had anyone actually challenge him in a way that he couldn't buy his way out of or do something with. Like he's that guy who talks about wanting to do fist fights with people who sooner or later, if he weren't president of the United States and super rich, someone would have knocked him on his ass and he would have.
Oh my God!
Okay, so there's two things I want. There's two things I want to say. One of the stories that I had heard of, and I know a lot of people don't like Michael Moore, and that's fine. You know, you don't like Michael Moore for your own reasons. That's cool. One of the stories I don't
like Michael Moore.
I get it. No, I totally get it. I totally get it. This is not to put Michael Moore on the pedestal,
go on,
but he's relating an anecdote when they were both going on. It was him and Trump were both going on. It was either Leno or Letterman. I can't remember which, but they were both guests on the show that night, and they were going to be, on the couch basically next to each other talking. And Moore in an interview said that Trump came up to him and said, like, please don't beat me up. Like be nice to me kind of thing. This is like back in like the 90s or something.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Like please be like,
it would have been early too.
It
would have been early.
But I mean, I might say that shit to an opposing counsel or something. Just like, hey man, don't be
I'm just saying
too hard.
it sounded.
But you don't know that I prepped so much for this hearing. Like,
Right. I'm just saying it came across as making him sound like really like when it comes down to it, like we were saying about.
I don't trust Michael Moore on that story.
I don't either.
I don't trust Michael Moore in general. So.
That's fine. You don't like his other political opinions. I get that. And I understand he cherry picks and he does a lot of
Trump may have
shit
said
that.
I mean, that's not an unbelievable story. Like
but the thing is that the
thing is he came out as weak. That was the point I was making. And speaking of weakness, the other point I wanted to make was about Cruz. Obviously, during the campaign, Trump basically deeply insulted his father and his wife. Like,
yeah,
as a man.
Cruz.
And Cruz himself, it's true. Lion Ted, all that stuff. And then
I don't care about insulting me, but yeah, my wife,
right,
and my daughter,
my family.
We have a serious problem with that.
Here's the thing, like you're like Texas tough.
You didn't even know about the porn star thing.
Ted is not Texas tough.
Thank
Terry,
you.
I don't know.
I'm just saying, if I was Ted Cruz, let me get this out. If I was Ted Cruz, I would have to, next time I shared a stage with him, I would have to beat his ass until Secret Service pulled me off of him and I'd be done with politics. That would be it. After the shit that he said.
Or I'd have to call his ass out right then and there and be like, hey,
Look,
the next
Terry,
time you run your mouth about my family,
instead of doing the I am Rick routine, right?
Ass.
And whether or not someone wants to vote for him otherwise, whatever. I'm just saying, I don't know how you debase yourself that much for political advantage.
Completely agree.
Like to me, it's just revolting.
Yep.
It's everything that's
It's
wrong
out
with
of my
politics.
wheelhouse. I'm too
It's
proud
everything
of
that's wrong with the way politics works in America.
Yeah. So how?
And go ahead.
Does that have an impact on you, Terry?
Does what?
Do you know about the porn star thing that Trump did?
No.
There's a woman who looks exactly like Ted Cruz that during it looks like
she looks like Ted Cruz.
Yes.
Oh my God, James hasn't seen it either. Oh my God.
No. Okay.
There's a porn star that
Am I
Trump.
gonna need counseling after this story?
Well, no, that somehow Trump found on Twitter, and then he tweeted at her saying, "You need to make a porn where it's you and you're Ted Cruz and everything." And she was, he was offering her money over Twitter.
What?
Nope, that's news to me.
That's news to me too.
Why are y'all not? See, the thing is that happened.
What weird ass left wing psychobabble are you reading that's a headline?
The bigger question is, how did that happen and the entire world doesn't know about it?
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's like the right wing shit that's saying that Minnesota.
The porn star Cruz lookalike.
Okay, there's that
Minnesota. Show James so James can see.
Yeah, I was saying this is like that article that Matthew Cowan, I think his name is, posted earlier on our discussion group.
This happened during the primaries.
Sure. No. I figured that was a time frame. Yeah,
Yeah, it
no,
was like,
I'm just
well,
saying,
it was
but
like
like
2015.
and this is the lead up to a midterm, and now people are saying that this Muslim
Well,
woman married her
I'm surprised
brother.
that, like that. It was news, but everyone
Y'all, I
forgot.
almost clicked on a Pornhub link. Just want to throw that out there.
Oh.
But you've seen this,
Watch
right?
it. Might be on the NSA.
Oh, wait a minute, hang on. I do know that. I've seen a picture of that woman.
I don't know who it is.
Yeah,
It's
Trump tweeted at her and tried to.
She
Tried
does.
to get her.
She's
no, I'm
very
sorry.
unfortunately.
Searcy
Cersei.
Hayes, 21-year-old from Natchez, Mississippi.
Oh
Okay.
no!
And is a female.
I mean, she looks a lot like Ted Cruz.
Kind of, yeah.
There's a
yeah.
woman out there that looks like Eddie Munster. Okay.
Okay, I'm just that she does. She unfortunately does resemble him quite.
What
quite
the
a
hell are
bit.
we talking about this right now?
It wasn't
Oh
my
yeah,
fault.
this
I
is
didn't
like
even
the
know it
second
existed.
time I've done this.
This
This is
is all
the
on
second
Haley.
time I brought up that
I
porno.
figure we're way off on tangents at this point.
Was it
So-
porno made?
I don't know. For some reason, I
She
remember.
said she
those-
would for $10,000.
I need
Yeah,
wine.
Trump tweeted at her in 2015, and I've just never forgot about the picture of the porn star that Trump tweeted, and was like, "Hey, you should do a porn with as Ted Cruz." I don't know. I've never forgotten that.
Man, that's
Well,
real
yeah, I mean,
bad.
porn parodies are a thing. We
Yeah,
get
no,
that.
they are, but that's so bad.
Yeah, so no one can really respect Cruz as like a adult human being. In fact, there's jokes about whether or not he is.
Well, but Brandon
and
said
again-
something earlier. Brandon said something earlier about the Democratic
Uh-oh.
candidate running for governor in Tennessee, and he was
Carl
just
Dean.
like, there was nothing that was like truly reaching across the aisle. And with Beto, I think that I am just like, why the fuck would we still want Ted Cruz to be running our shit? Like, literally, why? Well, even
It's not a Democrat.
like,
That's what it comes down to.
I mean, I guess, but I don't want this guy doing it anymore. He's bad at it, and he's divided. Like, I will. Maybe it'll be worse, but I'm gonna give in to hope, and hope that
So you've been saving it up.
it's not gonna be Ted Cruz.
I don't know, man.
But the thing is, Brandon had said there was nothing that reached it. So Terry, Brandon is on the Hangout. He's a 23-year-old.
Terry went to go get a drink, I think.
Yeah, I would too. That already did.
God damn it! But it surprised me. It surprised me what you said. The reaching across the aisle thing, like not having a Democrat say something that reached across the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
That just, I don't know, that resonated. Like, because I constantly think that Democrats in general, as campaign people, don't have a good message.
No one wants to
they're
reach
not
across
Well,
the
they're
aisle.
really bad at messaging, typically.
Yeah,
I mean, Obama
yeah,
was
just
the
like-
last good Democrat who
we are.
messaged well.
Was Obama?
Yeah.
Yeah, Obama
Yeah,
was the
I mean,
last one.
Yeah, Obama really came into it really swinging for the fences and really didn't deliver much, but he was a good head of state. in
Well,
my
I mean, he
opinion.
got
I mean, he was good at
Pretty
messaging.
badly.
That doesn't mean he was a
But
good
yeah,
president.
he
I'm
was
just saying
good.
he was good at messaging.
He was good at
And,
messaging.
and I got to give him
campaigning.
credit where credit's due. He's using
Yeah, he was.
modern technology in a way that's
I
effective.
think he made an excellent head of state.
Yeah.
I don't really want to transfer that over to
He comes
all of
off
the
as
executive
stately,
duties.
I guess,
but-
to some degree.
Yeah, he made a good head of state. I was not.
He
I was
was.
not there was never a time I was like not proud of him on a national or on an international level.
There was
Aside-
never
we
a
were
time
like-
that I was embarrassed by him.
Who
Even the
talking
tan
about?
suit, I was
True.
like, he's pulling it off.
Tansit, yeah, that's what we have on Obama.
I take that as a
Tansit.
personal attack. I love Tansit.
Wait, I did want to hear Terry's thought just on the Beto Cruz thing. Terry, are you there?
Yeah.
So
I got
one
one.
of the things. Oh, so do I. So Brandon, 23-year-old, who's also on the Hangout, voted for a Republican governor person. And whenever he was explaining that, he said there was nothing really that reached over the aisle from the other side. And I think that is probably
Let
the
me
issue
correct that
with
for a
Beto.
second.
Let
Let me
Brandon go.
correct that for a second. I didn't necessarily say he wasn't good at reaching across the aisle. He just didn't have particularly good messaging. Was the main problem.
But and that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
his
like,
messaging
they're
is
not
just piss
good.
poor. I didn't hear anything from him. He was
Yeah,
dead
this was
silent.
it. I heard I'm not a Republican.
Who are we talking
Well,
about?
Basically.
so,
We're talking about
so-
it's Carl Dean.
Carl Dean, who's running for
Yeah.
Tennessee governor against Bill Lee.
Yeah,
so, and I actually think it's one thing that Republicans are very good at is thinking of like very short little snippets of statements. One of the good analogies that I like to think of is with the OJ trial. They say the defense won because in closing, the guy was like, the glove don't fit, you must acquit. Like, it was just like that short little snippet thing. And I don't think the Democrats do that. And I don't think that they have anything that really does reach across the aisle for it. And so I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
I think the Democrats' problem in this election cycle, I'd have to think a little harder, reach back in my memory bank to opine on the last one, but they don't really have a message. Their message is hate Trump, be against Trump. I mean, it's they're not offering an alternative to anything. We're going to give you a bunch of free stuff and hate Trump. That's it. And
yeah, with Obama, his thing was change. You know, I mean that was good. It was short.
Well, let's remember another thing about Obama too, which is that he was able to take ideas that were kind of intellectual, sort of highbrow ideas, and bring them down to at least a level that most people could understand them.
Yes.
Some Democrats also have a problem with that too. That's another huge issue they have.
I think you're right. And so, and another one is Bill Clinton, and his one was hope, because he was born in a city called Hope, and like that was like how he platformed of it. It all started in a town called Hope. Was how he did it.
You're not old enough to remember Bill Clinton. Come on.
Wait. I went to school in D.C.
Did I just remind you what his 1992 campaign slogan was? Because, I remember that.
And high five across state lines. Haley.
Well, I lived in Arkansas for a little. I lived in Little Rock for a little while. So, and I worked at the Attorney General's. I worked at the Attorney General's, and he was the AG of the Attorney General's in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, he was.
So, yeah. It all started in a town called Hope, and his main message was hope. Obama's was change. And I feel as if Republicans have just consistently had their one-word message of being jobs.
Yeah, and it's working because it's.
And I think jobs is a hard word to campaign against.
It's actually changed a little bit now with Antifa and all of that showing up. Is now the slogan is 3 words: it's jobs, not mobs. Yeah, I've seen that around a lot.
That's the first time I've heard.
I've seen that. I'm talking from and that's more like. Definitely right now that's definitely like a hashtag that's trending now. But in general, I'm talking like 30 years. Republicans, one word thing has been jobs.
For that, in the 2016 election, for example, Hillary Clinton did not campaign in the Rust Belt, but Trump did. Guess where the Rust Belt had the most problems?
What was her one word thing?
Yeah,
we don't know.
It's like I'm with her and stuff like that.
Hers was I'm with her. Yeah, and like no one was with you. No one was with you.
Hers.
Yeah, they followed you all the way off the cliff.
I remember her. One of her slogans was
politics.
I'm ready for Hillary Clinton or something like
what
that.
Okay, I mean.
Yeah, like she's not very good at catchy media sort of thing.
God, I wish she would just go away.
She missed the boat since 1994 or so, and she was popular.
Wait. But I did have I had a question for Terry. For some strange reason, I still get the Ted Cruz thing. It's just like, it's gotten to the point for me personally that I'm just like, really? And so I'm wondering, is it something of like with Beto, is he not reaching across a line to you? Does he not have like something that's just like a short snippet of, I agree with that?
I think Beto represents everything I don't want to happen in this country. I don't believe he's been caught lying a bunch of times already. He's a socialist.
What?
He is.
He's
not. I've been saying forever, long before I ever heard of you guys, that I thought the Democrats have been socialist all this time. They just haven't been honest about it. Now they're starting, some of them, to become more honest about it, more open about it. But this has, I think, been a slow, gradual, methodic move towards that for decades now.
What?
Let him finish, guys.
All right. I was going to ask a follow-up question. Sorry. Continue.
Yes. Go ahead, Brandon. No, please do.
But I mean,
let Terry finish.
I think he's just another one of those types of politicians that is his
So,
intention
yeah, well,
his desire is a socialist state. They don't feel they can be open about it yet, despite, I mean, we got people like this Cortez lady who is a character.
Well, she's actually campaigning as a democratic socialist.
Yeah, but I said there are. I mean, you had Bernie Sanders was kind of the standout.
But
there,
and now we're talking about different people. But Brandon, you
Yeah,
have a
but-
follow-up question?
But
real
I
quick?
think my point is, I think
Guys,
Beto
hang on a
is-
second. Hey, Dennis, I've got like two. Okay, thank you for muting. Go ahead.
So, yeah, my point is, I think that Beto's not very far. I mean, he's basically a Bernie Sanders or a Cortez. He's just not honest about it.
And I do have some follow-ups to that, but I'm gonna let Brandon go first.
Okay, so
Don't
so thank you,
grunt,
madam.
Terry.
So is socialism bad, and how bad is it? Where would you
No,
rate it?
wait.
Where's the line?
I think that there needs to be a first question. What do you think is a socialist state? Like, what is that to you?
Venezuela.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
Who wants to follow that?
No.
Because I kind of don't.
But like, what do you mean when you say like, what do you mean?
Well, I mean,
No.
I could give an answer to that, but I'll let him go for it.
I did answer it. You asked what a socialist state was. I said Venezuela.
Oh, all right.
Well,
Venezuela.
and I'm just no, but is there anything like specific, like with? I mean, I understand that Venezuela is a horribly run country as a whole right now.
But
But,
government
like,
controls
what-
the means of production. They like having power over everything. I think. I mean, everything's a slow accumulation of power. You know, they chip away at it right here, and they chip away at it right there, and after a while, you just realize you don't really have any left. You know.
Yeah, and one, so just to have the caveat, one thing that Venezuela has so socialism as a concept, at least like from my understanding, is like it's two different categories under its operation, which is welfare, which I think has a bad definition in America. I think whenever people hear the word welfare, they immediately go negative, but it's welfare and economics. And so like with socialism, it's just that you're going to have a welfare state, meaning, you know, like you're providing safety nets and you're going to control an aspect of the economics, or you're going to make it so like unions, like in Scandinavia, what they do is they don't control an aspect of economics, but they do provide for a base welfare, and employers have to like understand that that's part of that, so they have to negotiate with employees a little more. So there is like that. So the government is separated from that kind of employment aspect, but there's the economic aspect as well, and that is implementing policies that like, okay, you have to provide welfare to all your employees and everything, and so you're going to have to negotiate with them in unions in Scandinavia. But in Venezuela, what they did was they just relegated the economic prong of socialism. They didn't do the welfare prong of socialism.
Well, they promised to do both, but what you're describing is two different things. Switzerland's has a very generous welfare system. But they have free markets. You know, they're not.
So do all the Scandinavian countries.
Yeah.
It's actually.
When I lived in Spain,
there's a deregulation aspect of it that like incentivizes strong unions and strong like collective bargaining agreements and contracts, that but also like an understanding is to do business there. You know, we as a country have socialized medicine, and I, you know, whenever people say the words welfare and socialism in America, I just find like on the politics level, it has such a negative connotation. And you did say Venezuela, but one of the things that Venezuela didn't do was the welfare aspect. And so like that's not
how they started out. I mean, when he was making promises, I was telling everybody when I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name. Chavez, is that right?
Maduro?
Yeah.
Chavez. Or no, Chavez.
Yeah, Chavez. When he first came into power and was talking everything, I was telling people then, if I lived in Venezuela, I would move now while you could. Yeah, I'd get everything I had and get the
Well,
hell out.
and that's because he was definitely raising red flags, but that was because he wasn't providing for like, you know, also.
Well, that's how he won power, by promising the moon to the poor.
Yeah, but he didn't do
Right.
it. He didn't
Well,
do
that's-
it, and so like that's, you know, to me, if you have a social, and the thing is, America has plenty of socialist aspects in their country. If you start actually going through the list, there's just as many socialist aspects to America as there are in Sweden. It's just they're underutilized for some reason, like school bus programs for your kids in school, or something like that. Anyway,
here's the question. Can I ask a question? Can I interject? And maybe Haley, you can come back.
Yeah.
So, Terry, you've said that you see Beto or however you say his name, that you think he, you know, is sort of angling towards a state like Venezuela, as in state of government. Now.
Well,
it's not a state of the U.S., but like, what is it of his policies or any of his positions or any part of his platform, whether or not he's either sort of a tacit admission that you think he's smuggling it in or whatever it is? What is it that he's said or done that has convinced you that he wants Texas to be to model after, as you said, Venezuela?
I don't think it's Texas. I think it's the country. I mean,
okay. Well, either one, but sure.
But it's the same with it. It's people that, I mean, look at what we went through with Kavanaugh. I don't know. I won't get into the whole was the accusation good or not? But
okay.
The way that was handled, you know, there's a historical decorum that is followed during judicial hearings when you're dealing with nominees, and that all went completely out the window. I mean, it was an absolute madhouse, and there's nothing that I can see that the and I'm speaking specifically about the leadership on the left here, not necessarily the rank and file. Because, and I know a lot of stuff comes up in the discussions there, and usually when I'm saying the left, I'm not talking about, you know, like the Elizabeth Laces out there. I'm talking about people dressed in black, you know, burning flags.
You're talking about
look at that, Lacey getting a shout out.
She always gets a pass. Did you guys notice that? Like, she says like some pretty partisan stuff some of the time.
She does.
But everyone's like black. Everyone loves Lace, so it's like, we like Lace.
The thing is, she is a decent person and a classy person, and I can tell she's worked up about things, but she keeps herself in check.
There's not hating what she says. I think that's
exactly
to get to the Beto thing, you know, and I've seen this sort of like Kavanaugh thing, and I'm not gonna lie, like that looked bad. I have voiced my opinion on that. I think everyone knows about how I feel on that. I've expressed it. But with Beto, one of the things that really appeals to me about him, and I don't know why he's not hammering this home a little further, why he keeps talking about how he's been to all 254 counties. No one gives a shit. What really appeals to me is that he has ran El Paso at a surplus. Like he's never had a deficit under his watch. Like he knows how to run things.
What was he doing in El Paso? What was his position?
He's been a congressman out, and he was elected out of an El Paso district. And so he has been overseen
is that state rep then?
Yeah. No,
okay.
In Congress.
Porque se llama
representative, right? That's Congress.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, there you go, Terry. There you go. He's a congressman out of El Paso, the El Paso districts.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, he's run a small business, and he has operated his administration extremely well to the point where they've made money, and I think that is good. And Ted Cruz has not. And the thing is, whenever I watched the Ted Cruz debates, I was all like, there was one point I was like, Mom, he's going to whip it out. You know, he's going to be like, the only thing you can count on from Beto is higher taxes or something. That's the only thing he's consistently voted on. And Maybe, but like more likely than not, if you fall into 95% of income category, you're not going to get hit with higher taxes from anything that Beto helps pass. But yeah, he has not run a deficit the entire time he's been an elected official, and the exact opposite is true for Ted Cruz.
So you're saying he's a fiscally responsible Democrat?
And why is he not selling that?
I don't know. I guess it just doesn't motivate people as much.
Yeah,
At least not people on the left.
Yeah.
But he should be reaching for us. I agree, it's a misstep.
But Terry, do you even know that about him?
Yeah, he said it's the first time I've ever even heard that.
Really? That's the first. Like, I don't understand why I'm not a political consultant. So, like, I don't understand why he's not just hammering the fact that he has just run his he takes care of his house. Libertarian values right there. I don't know.
You think he's a libertarian?
Libertarian values don't mean taking care of your house. It just means
I thought that was the literal keystone of libertarian values.
No, you just don't want to use government money to take care of things that people ought to be able to take care of themselves.
Libertarians are fiscally conservative and socially not so much.
At the end of the day, he was faced with the same kind of budget as a Democrat coming out of Texas. And he was able to twerk with a, Republican-controlled Congress and budget and everything for literally the entire time that he's been an elected official. And he's made money. Ted Cruz hasn't. So
I don't know if you guys discussed this before I got here or not, but what are your feelings on how the early turnouts are going for the races?
Actually, we haven't touched on it. We haven't touched on it, though. There is a lot of what I've read, at least. There's a lot of Democratic surge in registered Democrats versus registered Republicans voting. And it's kind of unprecedented, especially in Nevada. That's something that I saw talked about was Democrats in Nevada are going nuts. Like,
I actually did a check earlier, and Nevada was the only place where turnout was being reported to be better than for Democrats than
Yeah, I just saw
that was the thing that I was like kind of touching on with Brandon of the whole there is a large number of
I'd say all the way up to the age of 30. Most of us don't have landlines. I've never had a landline when I've rented places or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Right now, millennials make up the majority of the. Maybe it's not the majority of the. I know
it's the majority of the voting block that are eligible.
It's not a majority. It's 1/3.
It's eligible voters, but we have the biggest chunk out of eligible voters.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
So it kind of.
We have a good chunk of like the working population. We only have people under the age of 35 and above the age of whatever it is. Make up 1/3.
But if we don't vote, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but the thing is, people, we have a large section. We were easily below. I think we were like 44% of the people, the voting population voted last election cycle.
I was going to say, we have the biggest chunk that could make it.
Are you talking about 2016? It was about.
Yeah.
Am I the only one here that doesn't fall in the millennial category?
I'm not a millennial.
Actually, yes, you are.
No,
when were you born?
I was born in 81.
How
born when?
81.
81. I think you fall in.
It's like right on the line.
You fall in the last bastion of Gen X. I think 83 or 84 is where the millennials.
So I'm super technically, I'm not a millennial. I'm kind of on the line depending on how people want to define it.
But I know. But then there's like the Gen Y. Wait, are we Gen Y? I don't even
know.
No,
we're technically Zennials. We're the first generation of millennials.
And then Brandon is
the
people who are like.
Hang on. When were you born, Brandon?
1994.
You're the same age as my son.
Oh my God! How does he have an opinion yet?
I think you're still.
That's good though. That's awesome. I'm glad
you need to ferment your opinion a little more and then come back.
I think you're still technically a millennial. I think Gen Z is somewhere like the oldest gen. The oldest people in Gen Z, I think, are just old enough to drink, if I remember correctly.
So
the point is,
my Google says that millennials are from 82 to 2000.
Well,
Yeah.
there you go. See,
Yep.
Yep.
So everybody here's a millennial except David, who's on the cusp.
yeah.
And Terry, right?
And Terry, who's
Myself and Terry.
I'm
Terry, we're
firmly
the
in
old timers.
territory, Yeah.
yeah, it's Terry. I'd assume
You're a little bit
Gen
older
X,
than me, and I'm bald as fuck. So
right?
there we go.
Yeah, I'm Gen X.
Yeah, you're Gen X. You're pushing baby boomer real hard based on that
Mhm.
picture, though. Mhm.
Come on,
I
man.
bet-
1950s to
I-
1980s. My God, you're
I
missing like an
bet.
entire generation.
I bet you Terry shares boomer memes.
Who?
Exactly. Let's not go down there. Let's not go down there. I think the point, the takeaway is that yes, younger
Well,
people
wait,
make up a
wait,
large
I-
voting
but I
block,
never-
but younger people tend not to vote as much as
Yeah,
the older
like
generation.
when I walked into the polling station, I was the only person that wasn't like half dead sitting there. voting. It was
Easily.
ridiculous.
Wait,
Behind
but
me,
to
I
get,
voted on the first
to get
day of the
back to my
I
primary.
resent that
point.
remark because, for the record, I'm like 3/4 dead. So.
But what? Wow! All right, you're moving along. Go ahead. Get out of here.
No, wait, but to get back to my question, like, am I right? Like, you don't know about the balanced budget. Like, he isn't hitting the right points. There is no point from Beto that's really like, yeah. Like, and the thing is, so there's nothing that's gonna, even though Ted Cruz is a bitch. Oh my God, he's a bitch. Like, I can't even believe how much of a bitch that he really is. The thing is, I like weirdly understand it.
Haley, would you like to
But,
share
like,
with us how
there's
you feel about
nothing
Ted?
from Beto that's reaching across the aisle to you, right?
I just want to point out the fact that
I want to hear from Terry.
your white conservatives are the only ones pronouncing Beto correctly.
Cool story.
But,
We're the racists.
It's becoming painful.
We're the racists, though.
Thank you, identity politics from someone claiming to be a conservative. Anyway,
Right.
question to Terry. There's nothing that's reaching across to you, right?
No. I actually haven't
Yeah.
heard a message from the guy. I mean, literally, I've heard some.
Dude, I haven't been
Denial.
texted either.
No, I wasn't referring to that. My wife got two of them. They used my name in the text they sent to her, but I never got any on my phone. But when I've seen his commercials, and I honestly I haven't even seen very many of those because I don't spend a lot of time in front of the television. But I didn't see a message.
He didn't tell you that the fact that he's like done a good job thus far.
He hasn't. He didn't tell me anything really.
I don't know why they're not doing that. Like,
The
I don't know
Democrats
why they're.
The Democrat running
But
message
the
right
thing
now
is,
is
like,
they're not Donald
and-
Trump.
Yeah,
don't
but-
support
Yeah,
Donald
that's pretty
Trump.
much their only message. They don't
And the thing
really have a
is,
platform.
even though Ted Cruz is such a fucking bitch and like hasn't gotten anything accomplished, he's still able to use that fucking jobs
Can I ask you a
tagline.
question,
And the thing
Haley?
is, he doesn't deserve that jobs tagline, Terry. But
Can I
anyway,
ask you a
yes, you
question?
can.
Do you think Ted Cruz is a bitch?
Well, let me retort with another question.
I feel
Let me
like
retort with another question.
wait,
Does
hold
he
on,
look like a
Terry.
bitch?
No, wait,
Things look like.
this is important, what I have to say. So the reason why I'm so mad is because I, am a fan of Heidi. I think Heidi is great. And I know that Terry knows what I'm talking about whenever I say Heidi.
Heidi,
Yeah.
Isn't she pretty much boned? Is that
Heidi Cruz, Ted Cruz's
Oh,
wife.
My bad.
Yeah, that's why I said Terry would know and y'all wouldn't. Heidi is legitimately awesome. Like, she's a great woman. I don't know how she got tricked into marrying this man who wanted to play Aladdin, a whole new world. As, and the thing is,
who knows?
she is an oil and gas consultant. And she at Goldman Sachs, based in Houston, she was the breadwinner of that family for the entire time that he was a Solicitor General of Texas. She's a fucking rock.
I'm just wondering how do I get lucky in the dating pool like Ted Cruz did? Because I mean,
I don't
I'm
know.
I'm not anti-sex toy or anti-masturbation. Is that what I need to do?
Because I
Wait,
am
so
married
you
to
know
the
about
most-
Heidi? You know about Heidi?
Well,
right?
I know some about her. I don't know a whole lot about her, but
She's great.
yeah, she's solid.
And the thing is, when you're married to a Heidi, and Donald Trump posts a picture of Melania, an airbrushed Kardashian as fuck looking picture of Melania next to a screenshot of Heidi when she has a little bit of lipstick on her teeth mid interview at, probably like MSNBC or someplace that's not going to give her as good a lighting as Fox News would. Let's be real. Or tell her that she has lipstick on her teeth. But, Donald Trump posted that of Heidi, and he did the porn star thing. And I just don't, I don't know.
I don't know. Were you looking for a referendum on Trump in this midterm election? Because I know that's kind of something we talk about, but is there anybody here who thinks Donald Trump is not a piece of shit?
At the end of the day, I'm just pissed that like Democrats are still fucking hyped on this partisan bullshit train rather than actually singing their accolades, because there are some good people up for grabs in government, but they're continuing to play this stupid game. And, at the end of the day, I don't like Ted Cruz, and I think he allowed people to talk shit about Heidi. And I think that that's despicable. But at the end of the day, if Beto isn't actually going to say anything, the market's good. I have a better life. I'm better off now than I was 4 years ago. Why would I rock the boat kind of thing? There's nothing that he's saying that's going to really grab my attention. And keep in mind, like, I'm fully voting for him. Fully. I think that, as we all know, I think Ted Cruz is a bitch.
Yeah, we got that. But, there's an old Southern saying of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
But
that's the argument for the status quo, and that's probably
don't get me wrong. I hate that. I'd rather see people who are qualified for office that can go out there and defend it in debates.
Well, I'd rather see some fucking innovation. I thought we were a country for innovation.
Yeah, no,
it ain't broke, don't fix
them.
It. Like, why can't we think
we're
of
seeing
something?
some of that right now? I mean, like I said, on a personal level, I can't stand Trump.
The only person that's innovating in America right now that's public that we always see is Elon Musk.
I'm talking politics here, though.
Yeah, ain't no one innovating shit in politics.
Well, I mean, Democrats are
Trump is coloring outside the lines on every front. What are you talking
about? He's going and he's doing so regressively. He's doing so in a regressive manner. Like,
I don't know that is.
He's appealing to base instincts. So what I'm saying is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's working.
He is fixing it.
He's not fixing anything. He's going to the same well of trash, and he's digging deeper into the trash pit.
So the economy's not better. There's not more jobs. Things in North Korea aren't getting better. Our trade deals aren't getting better.
I am really glad that we all brought the economy up, because I am halfway through my second glass of wine, and let's talk about what happened today.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is it ain't going as
it ain't all about the stock market. People got jobs.
Well,
the stock market isn't always 100% a good indicator of.
No, it's not.
That's what I'm saying. It's not all about the stock market. The stock market is artificially.
Guys, whoa, train wrecking. We're train wrecking.
One at a time, please.
We should all be able to agree that the stock market and the economy are two different things. Right?
Correct.
There's two different words, two different things.
Exactly.
So I think we were all trying to say that.
Yeah.
Anyway, whoever was talking last can go on.
GDP is really what you want to measure an economy on, and unfortunately, you have to do that on a year-by-year basis. Really, I mean, you can do it quarterly, but if you want a good sense of what's going on, you do it by the year. So it's a little harder to measure a presidency as it's happening and see what's happening there. The stock market's a great indicator of what's happening on a short-term basis.
Well, stock market is like also a good way of measuring like how much fear is in the consumer.
There's some of that.
Like that.
But the activity at the Fed also affects the stock market, and now that they're starting to raise interest rates, this is
the activity of
the Fed is doing good work.
All right. The activity of the Fed, that affects the ability to borrow money, whether or not it's a good idea to borrow money or a bad idea to borrow money, basically, from American banks, from American money, because the Fed is going to set a standard rate of interest that to remain competitive, you're going to stay within those certain norms. And for the past 18 months, I actually thought it was going to last 24. the U.S. has been like literally the only economy that's kind of booming. Japan has a negative interest rate right now. It's ridiculous. And so,
I'm trying to move to Japan. I'm getting paid to have a loan.
I mean,
no kidding.
Pretty much. In order to have like
sign me up for a waifu and put me on that shit.
But it's hard. I mean, keep in mind that whenever interest rates are like that, it's harder to borrow money because there's less of an incentive from lenders to let people borrow money, and that's why there's a balance to it. Yes, the interest rates have consistently gone up, but the thing is, the last time that they were at 5% was, I think, maybe in 2002, 2003, like 5, and like now we're at 2.25. So we're coming back off of almost rocky negative numbers for kind of a minute there, and now we're at 2.25. So if a recession hits, in order for us to do a stimulus, what we have to do is lower the rates to borrow money and everything, and we don't have that much wiggle room to work with right now, and that's been a risk factor to think about. Crap, I've gone into the weeds a little bit. What were we?
the topic of this hangout was midterm predictions.
I tried to get us there.
If we're actually talking about the economy, like we lost all gains from 2018. I didn't think that was going to happen for another month, another 12 months for sure. There's a lot of things that the Fed is impacting your ability to borrow money. The reason why the stock market has dropped a lot is because investors no longer want to invest. That is what the stock market demonstrates. And so the ability to borrow money, yes, it is connected. And yes, it is less attractive to borrow money whenever interest rates are at 2.25%. Are we fucking kidding me? Is that really that unattractive of a number? That's a great number to borrow money at. But anyway, that's the base, and it's still like kind of hard to have your money borrowed, but investors have stopped investing. That's what the market represents. So yes, your ability to get loans for money to buy stocks and shares and invest in other companies is totally affected by the Fed. But at the end of the day, it's about like how much you think you should borrow to get into this market, like how much you value this market. Like, your ability to borrow money isn't necessarily tied to the Fed. And the thing is, a 2.25 interest rate is not unattractive at all.
So there's two things I want to kind of point out just for a second, if you don't mind. I hope I'm not interrupting anybody. Am I interrupting anybody?
No, go ahead.
All right, roger that. So one thing is that or not all of it, but a good majority of the stock market is controlled by artificial intelligence. And the thing with that is that it's very bad at predicting human behavior, and it has.
What do you mean by controlled?
Well, they actually.
You mean they're using trading algorithms?
Yeah, they're actually trading algorithms. There's actually machines actually controlling the movement of money throughout stocks, and so they don't predict human behavior particularly well. So that's one thing you want to point out when you see dips in stock markets that kind of don't make sense.
If anything, it's come up whenever there haven't been dips in stock markets. Whenever Trump was able to tweet, whenever he was still running, he was able to like drop some company's stock by a lot. I don't know. And then he tweeted about his ability to drop the value of his stock in a tweet. Since he's been president, though, that he hasn't really had that much of an impact on it.
Well, yeah, for the most part, he hasn't really taken that kind of.
Anyway, so yes, there are algorithms for running trading.
Algorithms for trading don't predict human behavior particularly well, so I want to point that out as another reason why you might see random drops in the stock market. And then another thing is that we are seeing job growth, and that is a good thing. But one of the problems with our economy right now is that our economy isn't necessarily diversified well enough, and you need good diversification in the economy before you can really say it's 100% healthy.
I'll agree with that last part.
So those are the points I wanted to put forward.
Anyway,
so let's.
All we know is that there's nothing that Beto can say that's going to sway Terry otherwise.
I already voted. Doesn't matter if he could.
Well, so and there was nothing that would have there's nothing that would have swayed you otherwise, right?
I don't believe so, because I don't believe Beto. I just don't. I mean, I gave up on all politicians as far as believing what they say. That's actually one of the reasons, the main reason that Trump appeals to me is he's actually doing what he said he would do. I've stopped listening to them a long time ago because I just don't believe them. I just don't. They've lied to me for too long. And they say they're going to do this, and you get them and you vote them in, and they don't do anything they said they're going to do, or very little of it. And this is the first guy that has gone in and just literally gone down the list. So he's won me over for that.
But he also said he was going to protect Medicaid and Medicare.
Well, but this is Cruz, is Cruz, not Trump.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm using that as an example. I don't believe Beto. I have a very exceptionally well-honed bullshit detector. It comes from being a cop. But and every time that guy's mouth is moving, it's going. My spider sense is going off. So I don't know.
My stepdad is also a cop, and he said some things, and I'm sorry if this is offensive, but like it's like, I don't know if this is offensive or not. It's just, I don't know the right way.
No, it's okay. I'm a big boy.
No, and I'm not. It's.
Go ahead.
I think Terry can take it. He seems like
he's a big boy now.
No, it's just like he could have just been like, yeah, I totally did something really bad as a kid with my DWI and like really gone out raw with the facts and did it, but he didn't. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter though. At the end of the day, what matters is that this person has told me anything about himself.
What someone does tomorrow is much more important than what they did yesterday to me.
But the thing is, you're not even, but
I've been on my own since I was 16 years old. I've done a whole lot of things that.
And the thing is, I actually think that Beto missed a very good opportunity of like really appealing to people, of like just own, like he didn't own the fact that he got a DWI when he was 23, and I really think that he could have. But he was afraid of it, and he was afraid of the backlash, and I really do think that could have been something that reached across the aisle. And otherwise, I think he has a good record. It's just with the way that like the positions that we hold now, it doesn't matter. And I don't know. It's something that's like, the more that I think about it, the like less hope that I start having in democracy.
It's hard to have any sometimes. It really is. I understand that.
And just like I don't know why he didn't just say that he was a flawed human being. I don't know why he didn't talk
the public
about.
Isn't forgiving. It's not.
But I also don't know
we
why
love
he
to
didn't
eat our
post
own.
his accolades. I don't know why we're so tied into this like identity politics.
I hate
it. But the thing is, with Cruz, like, and I think with the GOP in general, they've tapped in a way that like it's identity politics, but it's comfortable.
I'm not comfortable with it. I do not like identity politics.
But you're not even like, we both know that Ted Cruz is shit, but you're not even interested in like voting for someone who's not shit. It's just, and I'm not.
Cruz has for the most part.
I'm sorry if that's offensive, but
no, it's not. But Cruz has for the most part tried to do what he's promised to do. He hasn't always succeeded, but he's tried. Yeah, and like I said, that is more than I see from most politicians. And I, like I said, on a personal level, I don't like the guy. I don't like to hear him talk. I don't like the way. I don't like his style. I don't like.
It's because he talks out of both sides of his mouth. The stuff that you say that he like tried to win with abortion. I don't want to get into the abortion topic. Like, he is flip-flopped on that.
He's gotten in trouble with his own party for going against them because they weren't doing what they promised they were going to do, and he was trying to. And I don't. Like I said, I'm not crazy.
I don't know. There's something. So.
I have never in my life,
and I know, like
I have never in my life. Seriously, I'm not exaggerating. I've never in my life voted for a candidate that I was excited about. I've always voted against somebody else. Yeah, there's never been a candidate that's won me over that I've been, okay, man,
I genuinely can't believe
So what does that say about United States politics?
Not much.
You know what? You know what I think
Well,
it
that
is?
shit.
You know what I truly think it is? It's about skeletons in the closet. It's like, I think that every single person in this hangout and in general has skeletons in the closet kind
John
of
Q.
thing.
Public is a hypocrite. John Q. Public is a hypocrite. You know that they place expectations on candidates that they themselves will not live up to. Yeah,
and I mean, yeah.
Clearly.
So,
I agree with that. Can I interject though briefly though?
Absolutely.
There's a thing though, and I get what you're saying, especially on a national level. I don't know if I've ever voted in sort of like the major like presidential type elections. Said, yeah, I definitely really like this guy's message or this lady's message, and I'm really just a big believer in what they're saying or championing. Versus, I don't like this other person. I'm going to vote for the lesser evil, right? And I think that's a really common thing. One thing I do want to say, and it's based on my own experience of the last maybe couple of years of doing this podcast and interviewing local candidates. A lot of them have messages that I genuinely believe in, and it's not just an anti-vote in the cases of these people, and not all of them I can vote for because they're not all in my district, but most of them are or were in my district, and they had bipartisan messages. They were talking about meeting the needs of the community and listening to everybody, whether or not they agreed with them or not. There was a quote, I've lost it in the little the ether of Facebook, but we were talking about AJ Holmes earlier, who's running for state rep, and he related basically a tale of there was I guess had gotten emailed or something by a Republican who said that they were not going to be voting for AJ. Says, I'm not going to vote for you, this and that, and he gave the reasons why. And he says, okay, that's fine, I understand that, and I respect your position. But just so you know, if I'm elected, I still want to hear from you. I still want to listen to you. I still want to know what your needs and expectations are, and I want to meet those because I'm here to represent everybody. Like, you don't hear that from candidates.
That's
really.
a great message.
It is.
He's like, I'm here to represent
people.
Here's my phone number. Here's my personal phone number. Call me. Let's talk. And that's sort of his campaign slogan is let's talk. Yes, you don't necessarily agree with me. You don't like Democrats, you don't like liberals, you don't like whatever. But like, I'm here to represent the people of my district, all of them. And that's a really rare thing. I see that with him. He's really hammered that home.
That was the thing that, with Beto, he was like, I'll work with anyone, anytime. The way he said it was like a duel. Maybe he shouldn't do it like a duel. Like the threatening duel thing, but just like legitimately saying, like, yeah, please, let's talk. I don't know. I like that.
Yeah. Let's talk was the slogan. And we've interviewed on our, I want to say program, but that sounds pretentious, on our podcast. We've had Mariah Phillips and Justin Canoe, and they espouse very, very similar sort of positions. They don't, I don't think they hammer it home quite as well as AJ does, but these are people who talk about, we've asked them, and James has asked them here on the podcast, like, okay, yes, this is your opinion. You feel this way about this subject. And if your constituents are telling you the opposite, what are you going to do in this situation? If you want to vote one way or you want to promote or oppose some piece of legislation, but your constituents are not in agreement with you, what are you going to do? And they've all said that we work for them. Essentially, we have to represent their interests, and that's a remarkable thing.
That should always be the answer.
That should always be the answer.
You don't vote based on how you want to vote. No, vote based on what your constituents want.
Let me fine tune that. That should always be the reality, because it can often be the answer, not the reality. They'll tell you.
Yeah, in most cases they're full of shit.
That's fair too. That's fair
too. I know. Yeah, no.
That's the thing that can only be borne out in time. AJ is a first time candidate.
Well, I'll say for AJ, he's done his best to try to address these questions.
Absolutely.
He's getting dragged a lot by people who are saying, well, you didn't answer my question about why you're not raising a family. What is he like?
He's 25.
He's 25 years old, so he hasn't knocked some broad up yet or married.
Oh my God! Do not say it that way.
Thank you.
Yeah, he should just say, because I'm only this many, and hold up some fingers.
Well, I mean, like,
Yeah, just like classified.
Terry, before you joined us,
Please.
there was a funny thing that people were talking about because people have talked about on his because he's being persistently trolled essentially.
it's the same questions of
by conservative boomers.
What political experience do you have? Which is none, and everybody knows that answer.
Sure.
He's never been a politician before.
Sure.
And the other question is, well, what can you bring that I want to know about your raising a family? Well, he's never raised a family. He's 25 years old and he's never been married. Like,
but you can separate fact from opinion. So
I'm personally of the opinion that not having political experiences is sometimes a benefit.
Well, I mean, it should be since all of these people touted.
See that too,
All of these
man.
people who are trolling. All these people who are trolling.
They haven't
touted
learned bad
Donald
habits
Trump.
yet.
Right,
You haven't been corrupted yet.
Yeah, no, that's
Not
they
being
all
a good
touted
politician.
Donald Trump as our
Yeah.
God, Lord, Savior because he had
God
no political
Emperor Trump,
experience.
yeah.
God
Well,
Emperor Trump.
but the thing is, like, just thinking about like running a business and in general, I mean, sometimes, yeah, I want someone who doesn't have any bad habits.
The
formed
whole
yet.
idea was that the common man could be the president. You know?
Well, and their
Right.
next push is that he's always run businesses that his family has helped him start. Like
not
he's-
all of them. His photography business that he started on his own.
Yeah, I
He
get
did,
that, but
yeah.
I mean, he
None
rests,
of
he
us
rests
know
on the
about
laurels. He rests on the laurels of it.
Sorry, this is minutia.
We should probably wrap this up soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, two things I'm going to say quickly because we said we were going to talk about other topics. There is some question as to the immigrant caravan from Guatemala or Honduras. I can't remember which.
Honduras.
Is it Honduras?
It's from several countries now.
Yeah.
It's
they've all
originated
sort
in
of combined.
Honduras.
And you know, and they're sort of the southern tip of Mexico, and people were talking about this is like George Soros has funded, you know, something for political advantage. First of all, I think the idea that there's a bunch of immigrants, /refugees coming to the U.S. Hang on, I see you wanted to say something. I don't know how that would help like a democratic message at all. First of all, it's like, oh, there's more people coming, keep them out.
The argument is that they will vote
if you
illegally.
think that George Soros paid for this, I think that you might also believe that Nephilim walk among us and that the earth is flat because they're, to me, on the basic same level of credulity.
I don't know that the question, actually, I know that the question of who is funding it has not been answered, but somebody is funding it. I actually saw videos of people handing out money to these people.
Okay,
but it costs money to move that many people.
Okay,
Well, I'm talking about people that originated in a country that has like a 2.3K per year per capita income.
Well,
Yeah, they can choose to leave.
hang
Yeah,
on,
they
wait.
can, but it costs. They have to eat
Hold
while they walk.
Hold on,
across
before we do all of this, we have
Pennies,
to,
but
I
yeah.
want to. The question I've been posing to people that I think is really important is that if you believe it's centrally funded, we have to come up with criteria we can all agree on that shows something is centrally funded. What criteria would you use to judge in this situation? Specifically, what criteria shows you that this caravan is centrally funded? And Terry, I think you mentioned the fact that they're eating.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
but,
remaining hydrated. They're
yes.
excuse me. Yeah, you can't move an army. Let's just take it out of this
Well,
context.
we
Let's
know
take it
that
out of this context.
we know that the army has grown significantly as it's crossed borders.
Yeah,
and
but you
things.
can't. You know, if let's take it out of the context of this. You know, if you're marching an army,
Yes.
that their food is not free. We're talking about people that have nothing, right? In the beginning, they're supposedly fleeing because they're already destitute and everything else, and they're being fed, they're being hydrated, and in a lot of cases, according to the videos I've seen, they're being bussed and put on trucks and all kinds of other things.
Well,
some of them.
some of them are paying for their bus fare and whatnot too, and you have a lot of people posting about this.
Could you plan for a 2-month-long bus trip
Could I plan for one right now?
for you and your family? Yeah.
At the moment, no, I couldn't.
But I mean, could you do it like over like a set amount of time? If you decided I'm gonna.
Yeah, but you have to believe that several thousand destitute people spontaneously decided to all get together.
But that's just the thing. It's not spontaneous.
Well, it's been well organized.
Well,
It's not a
people-
question.
No, y'all are missing a point. Oh wow. I mean, there was like a large group that organized leaving Honduras, and they've been walking along and it was like something like 225 families decided to leave in a group. Why? Because walking that route in that number is good. Like the bigger the
I have a
number
question.
but then more people started joining them.
Yeah,
because it's an opportunity.
And not only that, it was well organized. Like I mean, like people.
Well, I mean,
people
there was 225 like people who left, and they've started marching. And yes, it swelled to 7,000
because it was well organized. But that doesn't mean that it was paid for by somebody. That what I'm saying is that social media presence has done that. Yeah, no, and it's been pushed by the right people. Who I mean, I guess that they may have paid. You know, like
no, I mean, like, sorry, like I do Burning Man, and so we had to like set up. Humans are amazing. It is amazing the ability that humans have to work together and accomplish stuff. You can build entire cities that are filled with these beautiful art constructs within a day and literally burn it all to the ground and remove every single ash from a desert. And like humans are amazing. And so it doesn't surprise me that 225 people were able to organize, and now, yes, it has swelled to 7,000. They're organized. They're well run.
I agree with you. And what I'm saying is that's not signs of central funding.
No.
All right, so let me. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Brian.
Sorry.
Beauty before age.
Interrupted. Really now.
Sorry for laughing so loud, Terry.
So so wouldn't you think? I'm gonna pose a question. Wouldn't you think though that they would have to like pay off local officials in order to stay safe from the cartels?
Well, I mean, I think that's where the power. Well, I think that's where
they forced their way into Mexico.
Happens. Well, I think that's where the power in the group thing happens. Yes. You know, if you saw 225 people organize and then it swelled to 1,000. And like, yeah, they're going a place that you want to go. They're doing something that you want to do. And no, you haven't organized 25 people, let alone 200, let alone 1,000.
If they're escaping oppression in their country, they succeeded the moment they crossed into Mexico.
Wait, hang on. I want to point out that there have been hundreds, if not thousands, of interviews of these people at this point, and they all pretty much say the same thing: is, "Hey, I heard about this on social media or something, and I've been wanting to do this for a long time." And I was like, and you know what? Fuck it, I'm going.
And like, now it's organized. Yeah.
I took what money I had and I packed some stuff into some bags I could carry, and I joined because I've tried to get across the border before, and I couldn't do it.
Power in numbers.
I've got two questions.
Okay.
One, if they were escaping oppression in their country, why is that not accomplished the moment they got to Mexico? And two, if they make it to our border, is there any solution that you think the left will accept that doesn't result in their being in our country and roaming freely?
To address the first point, I think there's a misunderstanding of their goal. Most of these people want to come here for jobs. It's not necessarily they're escaping oppression. Some are escaping oppression or just an oppressive lifestyle.
I would say the majority are. The majority are severely, yes.
Well, from what I've read, a lot of them are saying, I've been looking for this opportunity to get into America to make money. I want to go work.
A lot of people have joined.
They don't have a right to be here for that
process. Well, I agree. I don't think any of them have a right.
I mean,
I refugee status, right? That's sorry. They're applying for refugee status. That's my understanding, right?
Yeah, some are.
My understanding is they're seeking asylum.
That's the rallying cry, and I would say deny.
Seeking asylum is the same thing.
Yeah, but I want a job is not a reason to seek.
No, I
understand that is.
But that's
so in order to seek asylum, you have to actually to go back to your country. There has to be a significant risk that you will die. And so, the majority, you would want to say that because if you just want a job, then you have to have an employer sponsor you. You have to have an employer sponsor you in order to work here. The majority of the majority of Mexican citizens that come to work here, a lot of them are in the oil and gas industry, and I work with them. They're here on HB1 visas. If you're a Mexican citizen, it's much harder to immigrate.
I actually have a unique insight into this because my stepmother is Vietnamese since I was about 7, and as I grew up, there was a time when you still had to escape from Vietnam. It's not the case anymore, but we used to send coded mail. For example, my Uncle Ken here had been in some financial problems, and my dad had lent him some money, and they needed some food, or they were ready to escape. A group of our extended family over there was ready to escape from Vietnam, and they told in a letter that they needed the same medicine that we gave to my Uncle Ken, so they could get the money to buy their passage on a boat. And one of my aunts was they were attacked by pirates while they were out at sea, and they took the motor off their boat, left them adrift, and they ran out of supplies. And anyways, a British vessel found them and somehow got their boat operational, pointed them in the right direction, supplied them. But she was the only person on the boat. She taught English in Vietnam, so she spoke English. And when they got to the refugee center, she worked as a translator for a lot of the people there. And these people would come in and they were explaining why they were escaping Vietnam, to try to get to America. And the basic answer they would give when they asked, why do you need to get to America, was because I'm starving to death, and she knew that was not the answer that the people doing the interview needed to hear. So she would give the right answer, and she wouldn't tell them the truth. She would tell them what they needed to hear in order to get the passage that they needed. So the fact that you're facing hardship in your country isn't enough. It's not, that won't get you here. There has to be some political prosecution. And
can I pose a question? Because no one's really gone on record with this yet, but is anyone in this hangout for letting these people into our country?
Sure.
What's the point of not?
Because we cannot continue to absorb. We can't be the answer to everybody's
problems. Why are we letting?
We're in a labor shortage of agriculture. Like, these people are going to come and they're going to work those jobs that are not getting done because American citizens don't want to do them.
They're
going to come and spend money
again.
the economy tax.
Dave,
hey, wait.
I am personally going to solve the agriculture problem. You don't have to worry about that.
You're going to solve it personally.
I got a hell of a garden.
Okay, wait, hang on.
We'll just send them right back.
I'm serious. So if we're allowing them in, so your argument, if you're for letting them in, is that they're all seeking political refuge or some kind of asylum based on the fact that all of their lives are threatened and that we should just
not necessarily.
So then why do you want to let them in?
What did I just say?
Do you like?
Because they're going to work jobs.
Because they're going to work jobs. So
it's 1,000 people.
Yeah, but it's emotional. It's not.
We're a country of 333 million, and it is actually a pretty big jump to billion. But we have a labor shortage, and it is 7,000 people.
Where are those labor shortages?
I thought we were at 30,000, depending on who you want to believe on what these numbers are.
Why do we have a border? I mean, if we're not going to enforce it, why is it there?
Well, we do have a border. These people are seeking asylum, and they could totally seek asylum and work and pay taxes here for a couple of years. Yeah,
you realize if we had a border wall?
I mean, that is literally what asylum is. That is why Trump was able to revoke the people's asylum status from Haiti because of that we all know about that earthquake thing that happened there. And they all, I don't know, maybe 200,000 Haitians came here, and now they want to kick out like the 70,000 remaining that didn't marry an American or otherwise switch their status. And that's happening under the Trump administration. But all those people just came here and worked for a few years. And at any time, the president could have issued an executive order like Trump has done. To remove people who have been here on refugee status for plus 5 years. But at the end of the day, they came here, they were on a refugee status, and they paid taxes. And they mowed our lawns, and they cleaned our toilets, and they did that kind of nasty work that I'm not about to do.
And they work our fields,
And so they filled a void that is still existing, and so I do not see why we are even bothering ourselves to think about 7,000 people showing up to clean our. That's literally what they're doing. I'm sorry to be
because there's already by some estimates, 20 million or more here, and they're not going to stop coming unless we
There
stop.
are 65 million refugees in existence worldwide right now.
I'm talking about
globally.
here. Refugees elsewhere aren't my concern.
He's talking about undocumented immigrants.
Yes, undocumented.
Anyway,
guys, I don't want to get too bogged down.
I don't want to either. What I was going to ask is, we've already covered the fact that Terry's garden is going to take care of our concerns.
It's covered.
So, Terry, I guess my question to you there would be, what about toilet scrubbing? Who's doing that?
There's people here that do that right now. And they're not all brown.
I don't
know.
The office that I went out.
It doesn't matter though. Like at the end of the day, there's like 7,000 people is a drop in the bucket. Like that is nothing that we should be worried about.
Okay, so my next question is, how do you?
Where does it end?
How do you want to?
Honestly, assuming below 500,000 people is not.
There's already millions here.
Hang on, wait. Assuming
we only let in $30,000 people a year.
Okay.
No, that has to be addressed. Sorry.
Hang on. Assuming,
guys,
assuming
one at a time,
but assuming we're letting these people in, how do you want to process this, and how do you want to let them in? What situation do we have to deal with everybody at the border in Mexico while we process?
I mean, I think
30,000 people.
I think the amount of time that it takes to become an American citizen is fine. I don't think that the amount of time that it takes before becoming qualified to even become an American citizen is good. And so, Matthias, my husband, he would have to live here for he'd had to live here nonstop for 10 years solid, and maybe he wants to move back home. You had to restart the clock over every single time. But
I'm not asking that question.
As soon as he becomes eligible, it takes another 5 years to become a citizen. But it takes a long time to even become eligible.
You're swinging at a pitch from first base.
I don't understand why we are making it so hard for people to even become eligible to then start that long process. Because if they don't do it, they're still here and paying taxes, and they're still doing a very good job. And so they're not even on the pathway to citizenship. Why are we even concerned about them becoming voting people?
Wait. You're swinging. You're swinging at a pitch from first base. What I'm asking is, based on our current law and our system, I mean, like, we're a nation of laws, like following our laws and everything we can do. How do you want to process these people who are camping out outside of a border that, like I said, assuming your number of 7,000 people are sitting at the border, how do you want to process them? How do we track them? What do we do?
I think that already, as soon as you start working in the U.S., you have to start paying taxes, whether you're here on asylum, regardless. However you're here, you're already going through a visa, and that's a hard process.
How do we know it's okay?
And I think that's fine, and I don't think that we actually need to limit the number of visas because they're adding like a significant value. And we already have a very laborious, very, very antiquated, hard process for us to even get to the point of someone being on a pathway to citizenship here.
Yeah, you're definitely, again, swinging at my pitch from first base. And I'm asking the question, based on how we do things now, based on the law, how do you want to process these 7,000 people to become refugees? I mean, how do we do the paperwork? How do we track them?
If you are legitimately concerned about these 7,000 people actually becoming people who are interacting in your society and working, then you should be totally confident in the current American administration because it's hard as fuck. And I don't think that you need to think that it needs to become any harder to get in here.
You're swinging at a pitch from first base.
Exactly.
You're talking ideology versus my question of, how do we handle this legally right now for letting them all in?
Is there any reason that you think that it needs to be handled any differently than it currently is?
Yes.
You mean just blocking them from coming in?
I mean, strict as fuck, hard. Like 7,000 people are going to apply.
Your experience is dealing with a spouse that legally immigrated. That's not what we're talking about here.
That's not what I'm talking. That's not what I'm dealing with at all.
What's wrong with it in terms of approaching this?
I'm saying we grant them all refugee status. They're all coming at once. This is something we don't.
Blanche. Like,
that's no. Okay,
But,
assuming even we
all
are.
I'm wondering is everyone keeps on talking about border security, and so I'm going to know what the flaws are now because
How do we do this?
I can start. I can give you a hint. I can give you a hint.
Oh gosh.
If I was dealing with a Hispanic, and it was always a little bit different because, you know, they're accustomed to law enforcement on their side of the border being a bunch of criminals with badges, basically. And so I was a little forgiving the times that they attempted to bribe me because I understand that's their culture. That's what they're used to. Yeah. But when you go into the system, you go in and you don't have identification, which they generally don't. You go in and if you say your name is Santa Claus, you're Santa Claus as far as the system is concerned. And if you eventually get ID and give a different name, as far as the system's concerned, attached to your fingerprints, you're Santa Claus forever. And if I put in a name, say like, you know, Jose Rodriguez into the NCIS, HCIS, SCH, all those different crime information centers, I will get back felony warrant hits for days. I've literally had to turn computers off.
It fucking sucks, especially if you're like digging in. Dude, I hate it whenever there's a Hispanic plaintiff.
Cannot be vetted. What they show up at the border as because they're not coming through regular
they also
channels.
have Hispanic people have two last names.
We find people from the Middle East that are here for nefarious reasons. We find MS-13 gang members. We do. I'm not joking. I've seen them with my own eyes. Okay, I'm not going to argue with you about that. I know it happens.
But like you're not fucking with me. Like, come on.
I'm not fucking with you.
No.
That happens.
Okay. We're not coming from Mexico or
guys.
Guatemala.
We are again. Terry's getting closer to what I'm saying, but how do we make this an orderly process where we can actually track your immigration status or do something?
Not unless they show up with full documentation. That's the only way it can be done.
That's already what's happening.
They're not showing. The illegals are not showing up with that.
Okay.
The thing is,
people aren't illegals.
Assuming that they do, even if you have full documentation, how do you process these people across a border with 7,000 of them sitting at the gates? I mean,
James,
what are they?
Have you never gone through American there is a lot.
Oh yeah, no. We could just let you in, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying we're
literally every single time that Matthias enters this country, my husband, every single time that he comes to America, please don't do double entendres.
You got me. Okay, go on.
God damn it. I'm very American.
Every time he comes to America, yeah.
He's fingerprinted. He's been fingerprinted over 80 times now.
But he has freedom to travel.
We do that so we know he has fingers, okay?
But, he has.
But the thing is, you already have that data set. Like,
but we're not putting
and the thing is, where are you storing it? Why are you just storing 80 different photos of Matthias's? We are. We totally.
No. We're not.
Somewhere.
We're not
somewhere we are.
Well, we're not answering my question.
No,
I'm talking about granting refugee status to somebody and tracking it and remove them if they're not doing something productive.
And
how do you keep track of it?
I am telling you that I am very familiar about the avenues of coming to America and staying in America right now. And I am telling you that out of the 7,000 people that are marching here who are going to arrive here in 2 months, so I don't even know why we're talking about this now.
They'll be here in a matter of days.
Yeah, they're not walking.
No,
they're not walking.
They're not walking.
Some of them are walking. Some of them are driving.
I will bet y'all money.
If they're going to arrive in mass, they're not walking.
The fear is that they're going to be here before the midterms, and that Soros is paying them to be here to vote.
Right.
Next hangout, call me out on my shit then. But they're not going to be here yet. They're going to be real far away. They're just going to move like a little bit of boop on the map. And it's going to be totally undramatic. And everyone's going to wonder why they're freaking out for no reason. And again, 70,000 people. Out of these 70,000 people, maybe 500 make it out.
Wait, 7,000 or 70,000?
7,500 make it in.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Well, under the current administration, under the current enforcement of these laws, that's
I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, I'm just not filled with fear that There's a bunch of people coming to the U.S.
I
asylum.
don't think they're coming in, and I'm really not too worried.
I don't think this group will get in. No, I don't think.
No, it's not happening.
And whether or not they do, again, it doesn't fill me with
Actually,
fear that people are
for a while, nobody's getting in when the people are down on the border. Making sure
I mean, like, what shit are y'all talking? I hear this shit that y'all are talking, but like, we don't have this massive amount of we don't have 100,000 people coming over the border on a monthly basis. No way.
About 500,000 a year.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's not insignificant.
I actually think it's closer to 200,000 people a year coming in to clean our toilets who are getting asylum treatment. Yeah.
Guys, we got to wrap this up. We've been at this since like 8 o'clock and it's almost 11. I think we're all kind of
I'm happy to
down rabbit trails. I meant it as like a
we should wrap it up and like talk nicer now.
It's definitely time to wrap this up because I've got to go to work.
Gotta go home. I gotta work in the morning.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, no, it's been interesting. I think we've got
sign off.
I think there's been I will. This has gone down way too many avenues. I understand. I didn't mean to start some whole other side debate on the immigrant caravan, but here we are, and that's cool. No,
there you are.
Yeah, as I say, we gotta talk about the side eye, homie. I looked at you when you said that, and I was like, why are we doing that?
Because it's in the damn show notes, and I just wanted to hit on it for like.
That's not all you get for 1995. It slices, it dices, it circumcises.
That's right. It's not even the only. Speaking of slices and dices, the Saudis.
Oh God damn it, Terry!
That Khashoggi guy disappearing, murdered.
Yeah, also in the show notes.
Hey, we talked about it. All right. Let's close it.
We talked about it. We're gonna close out now. We are doing a watch party on the 6th. That's probably gonna be the next of anything that we do with regards to fermenting opinions. Thank you guys for coming out and participating. This has been a lively discussion.
It sure has.
All kinds of directions I did not anticipate.
Yeah, this is great.
But this has been fun. This is what we do.
Yeah.
The hangouts are more casual by design. And Scotch is delicious by design. But anyway, stay tuned for that. Please continue to check us out, our YouTube channel, Fermenting Opinions, Facebook page and group, Fermenting Opinions, all the same thing, fermentingopinions.com. And midterms are coming up, baby. Keep it in mind. Thank you to our digital wizard, Russ Janes, janesmedia.com. Helps make all of this stuff work for us. Thank you guys for coming out and participating. Brandon, Dennis, Haley, and Terry, and of course my magnificent and well-dressed co-host James McVeigh.
That's I.
And I'm your busted ass host, David Biden, and we're Fermenting Opinions. We're going to see you next time.
Yes, Dennis, next time try not to monopolize the conversation, will you?
I'll do my best. I'm going to do my best. Cheers, y'all.